Welcome to the Nite Time Podcast. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Nite Time Podcast. It's been a while, but I'm kind of okay with this format. Just like doing it when there's something we're actually interested in, like doing it about, instead of like forcing it every week or every month or whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
The format of roughly once a year doing 4 hours of content.
Yeah.
Instead of 8 times a year doing half an hour of content. This is the future.
That's right.
You can binge this. This is bingeable content right here.
I mean, there are like podcasts I listen to that like I only listen to like shit that I'm actually interested in, even though they post stuff every week. It's like I only really want to listen to their Final Fantasy content or whatever. So like I just tune in when they have that on. So
no, I completely agree with that.
And also, it helps, like, no one listens to this anyway, so it's like, who cares?
Doing it for us.
It's really more for us.
Yeah. I was offended by that comment. I've learned anything about doing this kind of stuff. You always have, like, 1 or 2 fans.
Yeah.
That just love all of your stuff, and those 1 or 2 people, I'm really bummed out you said that about them. I see you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, 1 or 2 people that listen. We appreciate you.
Some guy in a naval base right now is real pissed off.
What he should be happy because hey, we're putting out content for the first time in several months.
True.
But today we're talking about the new Cowboy Bebop Netflix show. So I want to start out by saying Cowboy Bebop, the original anime, is my favorite show of all time. Like more than any other show ever. It is my absolute
I've seen
favorite.
The Wire so many times.
I've seen The Wire once. I still like Cowboy Bebop more.
I've seen The Wire about 3 times. Cowboy Bebop's up there with The Wire.
Yeah.
It's not better. I mean, I just think for what it is, it's damn near perfect. And
right.
That's why, obviously, as a disclaimer, we're anything but unbiased going into this. So
yes.
I'm gonna be honest.
And I've talked to a couple of my.
I haven't seen Cowboy Bebop in a while, and I rewatched the original as part of doing this podcast, and like it's still really good.
Right.
Really
yeah.
good.
No joke. I watched it. I mean, I watch it regularly, but like the last time I watched it was February. So like, I'll watch it once every year or so.
Yeah, that's so much more than like the average human.
Yes,
I haven't seen it all the way through in like probably 7 years, and I rewatched it. Like I got done literally before we started recording this. I think it's still really good. I still really like it. I still suggest it to people. It's got some flaws. There's
not. I mean, nothing is, but like
I would not put it above.
In terms of like, it never.
If we're talking prestige TV shows, top 5. I don't think it. Top 10 maybe. It's not my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even if we
put it in the top 5 for me, I would say, but okay, that's not important.
Let's put it next to The Wire. Like even The Wire has like dips, where like I feel like Cowboy Bebop is just consistent from beginning to end. Good.
Yeah, I feel like the Cowboy Bebop as perfect show, as like the perfect show, is the same way that we talk about like Raiders of the Lost Ark is a perfect movie because like every
it is the perfect movie though.
It is, and every scene serves a purpose.
Yeah.
But like Citizen Kane's still number 1. You know what I mean? Like I think Cowboy Bebop was a perfect show in that
I'm comfortable with that comparison though,
and that nothing serves a purpose. We're gonna get into that because one of my biggest gripes with the live action is that it misses the point of the original anime. So we can probably just.
I'm very comfortable saying that Cowboy Bebop is the Raiders of the Lost Ark to The Wire, Citizen Kane. I think that's an apt comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
Citizen Kane, like ever.
I've never seen it.
I bet Citizen Kane doesn't exist. I bet it's just something that like no one's willing, like movie snobs are willing to admit. I'm kidding. I've seen it.
Yeah.
No, my brother watched it and he was like, "No, it's good, but like compared to today, it's not very good." But of course, you can't.
Casablanca. I still think I prefer Casablanca to Citizen Kane, and they're about the same time.
If we want to do a whole other podcast about like prestige film, I'm super in. I want to have this Casablanca v. Citizen Kane conversation so bad. It's gonna get in the way of what we're talking about.
Right now is not the time. Now is not the time, but maybe.
Episode 2 after this one.
Yeah. All right. So I was kind of thinking we just kind of start at the beginning, and like this is gonna be very freeform. I'm fine with just going wherever it goes. But so the very first opening scene starts with them in the casino, robbing it, kind of the way
basically knocking on heaven's door.
basically the movie. It started
Yeah.
with the movie opening, and I thought that was an excellent choice because I like the way the movie started. Like that is just such a great opening to a thing. And the TV show, it doesn't really have that bang, which is totally fine. Like obviously I love the show, but like to draw in new fans or a new audience, I think that was a great way to start the show.
I'm
Yeah, that's a
actually
good call. I agree.
I'm
Well,
I'm gonna hard disagree on this one because I
Go for
think
it.
Asteroid Blues is one of Cowboy Bebop's high points. Like that first episode is like really, really, really good. And I also think that like one of the weaknesses of the live action is the stunt and action choreography is just dog shit. So something that relied so heavily on the choreography being good was not a good place to start the show.
With
Just
I
because like they're not leading with their strengths. And
there weren't a ton of strengths to lead.
well
Um,
they
I
like
I think
I
a few strengths emerge in later on, but
I think
I want
that
go ahead, Danny.
go. I mean, it's just yeah. I mean, the intro's controversy where I fell on the side of so like I assume you guys did the same thing, but like watching this, I had to remove myself from like prior experience, right? Like I have to watch this like it's its own thing.
mhm.
And you're right. The opening to the movie works really well because it essentially has to work as a pilot as well as something that takes place in an existing universe. So just stealing its intro and putting it in a casino instead of a gas station. Because you get to introduce a bunch of characters, you get to introduce what we're doing, right? We're bounty hunters. This is roughly the vibe of our bounty hunters. This is how like this is roughly the power level of the guys we fight. Like everybody's just kind of an idiot with a gun, you know.
Right.
And that all works really well. But yeah, from a serious perspective, it's way different from the anime, which gives like basically every character their own episode. So like nothing happens for the first 5 or 6 episodes because it's like Spike gets an episode, Jet gets an episode, Faye gets an episode. We have some filler. Ed shows up, gets an episode. Whereas this is just like here's everybody. But the thing is, we're paying actors, and actors aren't down to wait 7 episodes to show up if they're going to be a main character on a show. So we have to introduce everybody first. And I agree. Asteroid Blues is like one of the best episodes of the series.
Right.
And I assume we're going to talk about how they butcher that
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty much
And yeah.
immediately.
Uh-huh.
I liked it. I think that. So I think if they only ever filmed that opening sequence and released it, it's a great fan film. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
what it feels like. It feels like a fan film. The CG's weird. The costumes are like very like what's the word? Not loyal. I mean loyal is, but like accurate. Like they're true to like the anime,
Right.
but almost too much.
Yeah.
Where it does come off a bit cartoony.
Like it's very like if you guys have seen like there's a fan series like for the Power Rangers on YouTube that's really good, but like it's got that vibe where it's like they committed like a little too hard to costume design. Same with it ended up there's a Mortal Kombat series that's the same thing where you're like this is really cool, also feels amateur because you lean
Got a
really
campy
hard
feel to
on
it.
maxing stuff, but like the CG's not there. You don't have the money. But the thing is, it's Netflix. They do have the money. So what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I'm
Like,
I'm I'm kind of pissed at Netflix for the lack of resources they obviously gave to this show. It's like
Yeah.
if you're gonna greenlight something that's beloved by people, I think that was my
yeah.
number one takeaway on my list was just fuck Netflix because like if you're just gonna rapid fire greenlight everything you could possibly think of, like give it some love because it's obvious that this show had no budget, like none whatsoever.
I think it had a decent budget. I think it had the normal Netflix series budget, and that's not enough budget for
Have
what
you
you're
seen
trying to
Altered
do.
Carbon?
I have,
It's
but
not very good, but it has an astronomical budget. Like and you can see like like if you did side by side comparisons of like the way the visual of like the sort of like cityscapes or the space shit compared to Cowboy Bebop and how this looks like it's just done in a really cheap soundstage and like the green screening is like
the
really
thing is,
obvious in some
the
scenes.
entire thing is done on a green screen stage for
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure. Like they're all acting against big green blocks and men in green jumpsuits, right?
anytime
Like,
you put somebody into one of their little spaceship things, it becomes the most obvious, and it's obvious why they didn't do very much of the space stuff, but it still sucks because that was such a cool part of the show.
yeah,
And
Vice
to have
actually had a
that,
really good article that explained. I was trying to put into words how I felt and where I was getting like, but I couldn't really do it. And Vice wrote a really good article about how the fact that like they're clearly embarrassed by their subject material. Like somebody was like, "We're doing Cowboy Bebop," and somebody watched it and they were like, "Holy shit, no one's gonna want to see this." And that's why it looks so garbage, is because they
That
didn't know what to do with it. Like that's why it's shitty green screen, and because nobody wanted to commit to building the Bebop, right? They were like, "Fucking no, we're not gonna." I guess you're right. So maybe the budget wasn't there because it's pretty obvious they didn't commit to building a set.
they should have
but
They were
taken
like
an
green
extra
screen it,
I don't. It
you know.
doesn't.
couple
To
of
me, it
months.
doesn't feel like budget. To me, it just feels like commitment. It just feels like whoever they got to run the show wasn't originally a Bebop fan. They just watched it and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna do a live action version of this, so
It was
you
the
need to
guy
watch
who
it
did
now."
Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's like Marvel
Oh yeah,
movies and like Real Steel and stuff. But
makes
the
a
thing
lot
is,
of
I don't think I
sense.
watched it at all. I think that no, I don't. Yeah, like, but the thing is, commitment is budget because if you're gonna do it right, you're gonna commit. You have to build it. You have to literally build a set.
You're gonna get a
Yeah,
showrunner that gives a fuck and likes the show. I mean,
right.
that seems like an absolute no-brainer. So if what
Yeah,
you're talking about that they
Yeah.
like,
Your marketing should not have been side by side clips of your shitty washed out thing next to like the actual anime, which got like immediately negative responses everywhere. Like people were like, "Oh, why did you do this? It's so obvious your thing is worse."
Mhm.
And like your marketing should have been, "We spent $2 million building this fucking spaceship."
yeah,
And then people go, "Oh, cool." You know, like that's a big deal. Not, "Hey, look, we made this really vibrant scene brown," because that's what we did in like blue and orange, really carrying the team. The colors blue and orange really doing a lot of work.
yeah. I'm even
Um,
looking at the promo on IMDb, and it's
everything.
blue and orange.
They
It's
color
just
graded
like,
the fuck at like to a point because like so I was watching this with somebody else begrudgingly. They are not a cute. They did not like this show. They didn't like the original show. Not their thing. And like they're watching me take notes, just like feverishly typing into my phone and like, what are you so mad about? And I was like, just give me a second. I'm gonna show you. We're gonna wait. And literally, I would pause and I would go, "What colors do you see?" And she was like, Everything's blue." And I go, that is correct." And I would play it, and I would wait like maybe 2 minutes. I'd pause it again. I go, "What colors?" And she's like, "It's everything's blue." And I'm like, "Yep, we're gonna do it again." And I did that maybe 10 times in an episode. I only paused it twice, but I kept
yeah,
pointing it out. She's like, "Yeah, you're right. Like literally everything is the shade blue. Like that guy's shirt was yellow, and
yeah.
now
The
it's fucking
cinematography is
blue."
very uninspired in the show. Like
They
they're just
ran it
kind
through
of,
a filter. They did what they
yeah.
did to
Yeah.
fucking Buffy the Vampire Slayer when they put it on Netflix.
I'm
They just
glad
ran
you
it
brought
through the
up
fucking
Buffy the Vampire
machine.
Slayer because I get serious. What's his name?
Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon vibes from this whole damn thing,
That
and
Vice
it
article
just
I
doesn't
mentioned,
work.
Whedon speak is apparently the word you're looking for. I didn't know that
Yeah,
was an actual
and
verb.
it
Whedon
made me
speak.
wanna smash my head against the screen. I was like, why is a Joss Whedon influence taking over this? Like, it's a totally different style that like works
Like
with,
the Bebop felt like Serenity.
yeah, but the thing is, like, the Joss Whedon thing feel works in Firefly because it's a different tone and a different
Right.
style.
Yeah.
But applying that to this is just very misguided because it's not the same tone or style at all.
Yeah, well, and that's because like I mean, we get into. I assume we're going to start doing episode by episode, but I guess before we dive
Yeah,
into that,
Yeah. That was
something that was really obvious from the beginning of watching this is yeah, they wrote totally different characters, which fucking whatever. I assumed they would. And I hate when people get into like fan fiction stuff where it's like, oh, well, this character would never say that. And it's like, well, if I wrote them saying it, they fucking said it. You know, like I was cool
well,
with like Spike talks more than he normally does. Don't give a
yeah,
shit. Faye
and I
became this
think,
weird girl boss bullshit thing. Don't love it, but whatever. That's what you wrote it as. You know what I mean? But like they tried to cram in all of these famous lines and conversations from the original that are absurd because they come from
not
characters
the
that don't
characters
exist.
anymore. Yeah, yeah,
Like, we're gonna talk about it when we get to like the last two episodes. We get to the ending. I've got like 7 hours of content on the ending alone. I was so fucking angry. Um, but like
yeah.
when they
That
do
second to
like
last
the you
episode was
used to be a
painful.
beast and you had the blood of somebody who kills people, and then he's like, I bled out all of that blood. And it's like, well then why are you alive? And they fight. In the show, it makes a lot of sense, and you're like, ooh, that was a serious thing. In the live action, they burn through it super quick, and it just sounds absurd.
Yeah.
Well, can we just say real quick, anytime Vicious is on screen, this show is failing.
It awful.
Holy shit!
Like,
Who thought
Probably
any of that was a
tied
good
for
idea?
the worst character in the show.
ever. I mean, like, here's the thing.
Tied
Vicious
with
in the
who?
original was like not much of a character at all. He was just kind of an anime villain, which is fine because that's all he needed to be.
Right.
And so from a certain writing perspective, I can understand, well, let's flesh this guy out. Let's give him some more depth. But the
By
way they
making
went
him a
about it
whiny
was
bitch.
Yeah.
awful. It's like they
Awful.
saw that guy from the first season of Game of Thrones that gets the stuff poured on him.
It's literally just
Oh
that
yeah.
guy.
And they're like, this is a great character. Let's
Yeah.
turn Vicious into him. And like, that's it. There's nothing more to it than that, it seems like.
No, somebody clicked a bunch of checkboxes and then ran it through the script writing machine, and this popped out.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Because
It's
I mean
like,
that's what Netflix does. I mean that's what their whole thing is, just make TV
yeah,
shows based off of an algorithm, and that's exactly what this was.
Like, there are so
yeah.
many better ways to make Vicious have a backstory, but make him not like an obnoxious whiny idiot. Like, he's a badass in
It
the
wasn't that at
show.
all. Yeah.
I mean you can
Just
even
make him
change
about
his
make him scary as fuck. Keep having him on screen and have him kill people and have him occasionally have conversations and stuff. But don't have him be like, nobody respects me.
Talk so
Shut the fuck.
much. Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
I
I'm
think
not.
the only time I liked him was the very first scene he was in.
He just
And
fucking murks two
right,
dudes.
he just
It's
he
dope.
says maybe one or two lines and then just kills a guy, and it's just like, yeah, dude, that is vicious. And then after that, he complained in every episode and every scene he was in, and he was just like, he was this freaking powder keg that was just like ready to explode at any moment. And in the TV show, he is very calm, very calculated, and very methodical, and he was scary in that way. And
And he doesn't really do anything crazy until the very, very end when he kills
Well,
all the syndicate guys.
yeah,
that's the thing too, is he's very oh, I'm gonna get angry, and then it's like, okay, well, you're only around main characters, so you're not a threat.
Yeah.
You're not gonna kill anybody. So go ahead. And there's only so many random syndicate goons you can make look scared. I don't know. It's silly. It's I don't know. I hate that. I also hate that his dad's the head elder,
Yeah.
because
yeah,
it's like,
no,
dude, you are
He's
here via
like the
nepotism. You
spoiled
know it.
brat.
You have
Like
so
he
much
inherited his
power.
role in the syndicate. That means like he didn't even earn it.
right.
So like there's nothing you can respect about Vicious by the end of
Oh,
this.
dude, this show fucking excels at setting stakes and then just being like, no,
Yeah.
kidding. Chekhov's gun doesn't exist. It's literally let's show you that gun. We're gonna show you how it fires, and then we're just gonna be like, oh no, the gun was a dream. It doesn't exist. Every fucking episode, this whole fucking show is we're gonna set all this we brought up this thing. It's gonna matter later, and then it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
This whole build up, Vicious doesn't even fucking matter. His whole backstory doesn't mean shit. Because he fucking, the spoilers for the end of this thing. I know we said we're gonna order, but fuck it. He fucking kidnaps Jet's got a kid now that we had to invent
I
so that
don't hate
Spike could
that.
kidnap the kid. I hated it.
I will say there is almost nothing about Jet's character that I think was not good. I think Mustafa Shakir kills it as Jet. I think he's like spot on in the casting.
I think Jet
Um
is the only character that comes out at okay in all of this, and I
I,
think that's partially because Jet's character in the anime is the easiest to cram into an algorithm.
because he's already a pretty well like blueprinted for converting into like a story like this. And
He's yeah.
I think giving him and Alyssa a kid is not a bad change. I think it actually kind of works. It ties him to her and it gives it gives him stakes in the story
It
of like
does.
I
something that kind of drives him.
I
I didn't like
100%
giving him a kid.
I 100% agree with what Kevin is saying. The only thing I didn't like about Jet's backstory was that he went to jail. And I thought it was better that he left the cops just because of how corrupt it was, and he was just fed up with the system.
Yeah.
I think they didn't need to add him going to jail for 5 years to convey that. But
I
other than
agree.
that, I
It
completely
doesn't.
agree. Jet was fantastic. He was definitely, in my opinion, the best part of the show.
I think he was the best part of the show. I think that giving him a kid misses the point of Bebop, in that everyone is trying to outrun their past, and we gave Jet his past gets to hang out with him. Like he sees his past fucking dance recital, and it's just it's a weird thing, and I feel like it didn't come up enough to matter, and I feel like it like got added because we couldn't figure out how to make these people fight at the end of the series, and it's is because you just didn't do a good enough job. Like you did this whole build up for Vicious, and it's basically its own separate TV show at this point
Yeah.
because half of every fucking episode was this nerdy piece of shit being a nerdy piece of shit because his daddy doesn't love him. And then we have cool space people doing cool space people stuff, and then they have to fight at the end, and there's no way to connect
Space
them.
people, they're in cities. There's no space in this fucking show. There's like 20 minutes of space in this
Yeah.
That is
entire
true.
show.
Yeah.
That is
And it's
true.
all just CGI, you know,
Yeah.
like transition shots.
Yeah.
Those awesome like jazzy dog fights and like in the space gates are completely gone. Like
Oh
that
yeah.
Oh,
was one of
dude,
the
Right.
like
the
stylistic.
music in general was so like somebody just threw like a dartboard at like somebody like pulled up their like video editing software and then somebody just like hucked a dart at it and whatever frame it landed on, they were like, all right, cool, pull a song out of the OST. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And like you were just playing music.
I will say though, well, you're right. You're 100% right about that, but it worked on me. Like whenever I heard an old track from Cowboy Bebop, I was always just like, yeah.
Yeah, I know, me too.
And the longer I sat with it, the more I resented the show for doing that to me. But I would get excited whenever I'd hear an old track.
I felt
Yeah.
oppositely because I heard it. I'm
Really?
like, oh, we're using an old thing, and that's why I watched the original right after watching the live action, just to like remind myself. 'Cause I was like,
Mhm.
I remember the music working really well with like the fights and stuff. This feels a little bit off, and then I went and watched, and it just makes so much more sense in the show because like the songs go with what's happening because Yoko Kanno wrote it for that fucking
Yeah.
scene. And then like again, I know we're skipping to the end, and we're eventually, I don't know, maybe we do, maybe we don't start at the beginning, go through at this point. They play fucking the name of the song is not "Walk in the Rain." That's just what I call it in my head
Yeah, walking
because
the
that
but
Ring.
they played the version that I like better,
That's true. I
actually.
and they
agree
played it
yeah.
like the weirdest fucking part. Like I was
Yeah.
like, this doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. Why is this here? Why are we in this weird blue church castle thing?
That's where it
Like
played in the first one too.
I know it
Yeah.
is, but it made
Oh,
way more sense then because it just
yeah.
because like in the original, about halfway through the first, like halfway through the I don't know the series, I guess. Right, we kidnap Faye.
That was like episode 5. That's Ballad of the Fallen Angels is
Yeah,
actually close to
it's
the
like
beginning.
5 or 6. I guess not
Yeah.
halfway, but, like, roughly in there because it's, like, in thirds, like, the start of the, like, the second third. Alright, and he's like, "You're gonna meet me at this church because this church has meaning to us." And then they go and they fight, and we huck Spike out of a window, and it's a whole thing, and then, like, that's our first intro to everybody. And the song fits with this sort of drama of we're gonna cut all of the sound out, like, you see machine guns, but you don't hear machine guns, you see them fight, but you don't hear, like, the whooshes and the punches and the stuff, you just hear this haunting thing,
And
and
that's
then
what
it's
Bebop used to do best, is just
set
that, like
against
Yeah.
this giant stained glass window, and it's a very epic thing.
Mhm.
And then we do it in the live action show, and it's like it starts playing as we're like clumsily running up these stairs, and then like Julia's there for some reason,
And then
and
when, like,
like
Vicious
it
pulls
just
out
feels
his
weird.
samurai sword, you get that really cheesy, like, Japanese, like, wind flute. Like, it's like, "Oh my god, what are you doing? Stop this."
Yeah, like Vicious should be terrifying because he literally brings a knife to a gunfight and
And
kicks
wins,
everyone's ass.
Yeah.
and
Like,
usually wins. And, like
and instead, it's like everybody's got guns, and he's just like, "I'm gonna get you," and it's like, "Shoot this fucking nerd." I would like speaking of fucking Raiders, I would love nothing more than for Vicious to pull his fucking knife out, then somebody just like
Yeah.
blammo.
That's basically how it ends. That's what
Yeah.
Julie does to him in the end. She just shoots them.
Yeah, you
Right.
son of a
It
bitch.
works. I'm pretty sure Vicious is dead at the end of this season. I don't know. It's hard to know. Well, okay, we're not going in
Uh,
order though.
It's
So,
hard to care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
so episode 1 kicks off
episode 1
very
is Asteroid Blues or whatever the fuck they call it, Cowboy
Uh,
Gospel.
Cowboy Gospel, yeah.
I've got the episode list up here.
I'm gonna rely on you guys for that.
It is they have the like desperado couple. They totally decided let's just make it a rich white girl and let's completely destroy anything you would have to like. I felt nothing for her in the
Well,
end.
it's like, yeah, like, let's take this like tragic sort of like drama, right? Where it's like a couple tries to run away together. The dude's clearly fucked up on drugs, but she still loves him and thinks they can make it work, but she's just delusional, right? But it's their only way out. And like, but they get caught and now they have to fight. And then like it ends with this sort of like tragic, she kills him and turns herself in because she knows that they're never gonna make it. And like the only way is
She
just to
doesn't
give
turn herself
themselves to the
in,
cops.
it gets fucking obliterated.
Yeah.
Oh, did they get blown away at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty similar how they ended it. Like she killed him and then they went up.
She doesn't kill him in this one.
And yeah, no, in
Kinda
the
dies. He bleeds from the gunfight.
right, yeah. He just like bleeds out, yeah. But then
Which-
she still just like kills herself running into the police blockade.
I just have in my head that shot of like we in space come over the top of that cockpit and like the dude's dead and she was like looking at Spike and you're like, oh, that's right, yeah. Then they just fucking like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Except
that's such
she
a
and
good
Spike have
thing.
this whole exchange where there's no
Yeah.
subtext anymore. He's just
Ah,
kind of like,
so
you don't
sick.
have to do this, and she's like, yes, I do. And it's like, we said all of this in the original without these lines.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Dude,
all
no,
she
like-
said was like adios, and then blew the fuck up, and it was one of the coolest things.
It like it just beats you over the head. Like whoever wrote this is very obviously just like, no one's gonna get it, dude. Like
Yeah.
this is too heady. No one's gonna understand. Like it's just like we have to tell everyone everything exactly what's going on.
And it's funny that they couldn't really, it was hard to even see that like her pregnant belly was just all the red eye because they had to zoom so far out because their special effects were so bad. So like it was really hard when she was like floating in space at the end. It's kind of like you can't really tell what's going on because it was such a wide shot and they
Yeah.
didn't want to like go in any closer because it was obvious even from as far out as it was that it just wasn't rendered very well.
Well, they didn't make her look all that pregnant either. Like it was like a
Yeah.
very like muted like baby belly thing. And it's like
Right.
I thought the kind of the point was like she looked pregnant, but she looked pregnant as fuck in the cartoon.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point is that she's supposed to be obviously pregnant so that nobody fucks with them and also she can carry all of the drugs. So making
Yeah.
her look only kind of pregnant, like it would have been cartoonish if they had had the same amount of drugs come out because it would have been like this like clown car of a fake stomach. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's like another I don't know.
But yeah,
It's just
it
bad.
just felt like the only reason they made her a rich, poor daddy's rich girl is because they needed to bring Faye in.
Yeah,
because you had to
and I
bring
mean,
Faye in the first episode.
God,
Contracts, baby.
Yeah.
I know you saying that at the beginning that makes sense, but like I just that creative decision really bugged me. Like Faye, you could have waited and given Faye her own episode. Make it episode 2, like and introduce her.
Yeah,
and
I didn't even
give
be fine
her
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
time
that's
to
like
shine.
$100,000. So like Faye's agent's fighting to be in that episode though. Like
God.
you're getting paid per episode, man. Like
Faye's agent should have gotten their actress to keep her fucking mouth shut before the show went live. That would have been a lot smarter thing to do.
what did she say? Did she say a bunch of dumb stuff? She like a turf or something?
She complained to the fans directly a lot.
Yeah, and
obviously the fans were complaining because we're complaining.
Yeah.
But
it's the typical incel shit where she's
Right.
like she's not as hot and her she's not showing as much skin, and it's just kind of like, okay, I don't really give a shit about that as long as the character's done well. I don't care.
Right.
But she went and talked mad shit about not just like the fans, but about the way the original show is writing, saying they're like bringing better writing to the female characters, even though the original show had a main female writer. So that was a dumb fucking thing to say anyway.
And also, the Faye character in the original anime has like I don't know agency, and
Yeah.
isn't like a shitty like
then
we
she
didn't speak.
follows it up with an
pull the string.
inferior performance that is not as good as the original.
Right.
And it's just kind of like you really shouldn't have talked that much shit. Like if she could have come and had just like a kick-ass Faye that's like way better and really does all the things that she's claiming to do. That'd be one thing. But she stirred up a bunch of shit and then like could not follow it up with a really solid performance. Like she was fine. She was okay.
We're gonna do a side by side with their marketing of all the times that Faye in the original anime calls someone a dickwad, along with all the times that they say it in the the live action remake. The problem is I couldn't find any.
Yeah.
In the cartoon. Does she say "ouch, motherfucker"? Or no, I'm sorry. Here
doesn't
comes
have
the
any of
ouch,
those-
motherfucker. I believe. Is that
That's
the
what I mean.
superior writing? Is that the superior fucking writing we're talking about right now? Is that the real
No.
fucking girl power we're gonna get out of this fucking bullshit?
That's the Joss Whedon shit. That
So
like
bad.
just like holy crap. Like, do not bring that to this. It doesn't fit and it doesn't work.
No.
Like, man, she should be on the other side. She should be pissed. Like if I were her, I'd be like, I watched the cartoon and like cartoon Faye like has like an amount of agency and
Kind of,
like yeah, she's in
yeah,
debt, but like
yeah.
she gets
Yeah.
to like have emotions sometimes and like she does things
And-
that make sense.
And also, I feel like Faye is incredibly smart in the anime, and I was not getting
Yeah.
that from
Yeah.
like from this
Faye
at all.
on
She gets
several
her way
occasions in
out
the
of
anime one punches dudes like KO, knock him out several
Yeah.
times. Like is a badass, is smart, looks out for herself.
And incredibly charming. Like, granted,
Incredibly.
her charm almost never worked, but that was part of her character. She would always try to be
Yeah.
charming to
Yeah.
like lure the bounty in or whatever. And then
I would have
I mean,
fallen
sometimes
for
it did
if it was
work.
me. It just didn't work out like in the world
Yeah.
of the show because they'd written Faye to just be a fuck up and
Right.
like in that but it was a good character and like I don't know. It
No.
just didn't translate. At some there
Faye,
were
no,
Go
Faye
ahead.
exists to just be no. Faye exists in the live action cartoon. Everybody's the same character. Everybody's the same character. Everybody's this weird detached, like fucking one-liner machine. Faye is just Lady Spike.
I think
Only
Spike's good though. I think John Cho has actually did a really good job with Spike.
I think John Cho did his best. I think
With what he was given, yeah.
given the
I think he
script,
was great.
Yeah.
Like when
he did his best.
when they first announced that it was going to be him, I was like, that's not who I would have chosen, but that is a
Oh, really? I was
great
hyped.
pick.
I was
Really?
hyped for John Cho.
No, I
John
was
Cho's what
super
got me on
excited.
board.
Yeah,
Once I thought about it, like for 10 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna be great. Like I would start thinking about other stuff I'd seen him in, and like he's a great like dramatic actor, but he's also hilarious. And I was like, okay, that's perfect, Spike.
Yeah.
And he's got swagger too. So like
Yeah.
you could see him
He's
like
a fan of the
in that
show.
role. Yeah.
Like he likes the show, and you can tell. Like he's the only person who committed to the mannerisms. Like something I did
Mhm.
notice.
And
Again,
Jet.
John Cho's dope. Jet also worked really well. I think Jet
Yeah.
did the best. I think Jet had like John tried to deal with a script that didn't fit with his character at all, and I think he
Yeah.
did his best to make it work.
Yeah.
But like he does like the weird elbow hunch thing the
Yeah.
entire series. Like, he
Yeah.
never breaks that. And I was like, because I saw it like the first couple episodes, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But then like I got to the end of the series, and I was like, he's still doing it. He never broke from like he's got that walk down perfect. But I don't know. I don't know if we got anything for episode 1 besides it was just bad. Like you took one of the best episodes and made it
Yeah.
just kind of useless.
That's about all I've got for episode 1.
All right,
I mean,
it is when they introduced Spike being known as Fearless. I wonder what you guys think of that.
I didn't hate it if they would have done a better job with it. Like
Hated it.
I don't hate it just on paper like this because Vicious is a weird name, right? And so it's like, why are you calling Vicious? And it's like, oh, because it was like a naming scheme in the Syndicate or something that like when you got taken in the Syndicate, they give you this adjective that just describes you.
Yeah.
And so Vicious and Fearless were like their mobster names. And if they weren't so goddamn cheesy with it, like it could have worked. But like again with this show in execution, it just failed. And so I wish they would have not done that.
I can say, yeah, I guess I don't think I agree. If they had said Fearless like at the end of episode 1, like, oh shit, Fearless is alive, and then never called him Fearless for like 8 more episodes.
No, because because he has that scene with the sniper rifle when Vicious is like, that was like the worst scene.
That's what I'm saying. If they had said it just like once and just been like, oh yeah, Spike, real name is Fearless, and we never said Fearless again until way later.
That's what they should have done. You're saying
then it's perfect.
Okay,
yeah, they did overuse
it.
it.
They fucking called him Spike. I'm like, what is this idiot's name? Like, he's got 2 names. Like, it doesn't make any. Because in the show, Spike isn't a pseudonym. Spike is his actual name.
That's what I didn't like about it. Like, I thought calling him Fearless was great, but I do think they overused it. But like, yeah, his name is
silly.
Spike. Like that's still his name. But like he's in it when he's like, I go by Spike Spiegel now. It's like, but no, that's your name. That is your name. I also
thought that maybe they were really gonna at early in when I was giving it something of a benefit of the doubt. I thought, well, maybe this really they're leaning into the sort of like, kind of fuck. What's the Japanese mafia
Triad?
No,
The Yakuza.
Yakuza, yeah, because they're definitely the Sixth Syndicate was very Yakuza inspired
Oh yeah.
in the original, and I thought they were going to just make it very like sort of Japanese Asian kind of like all of the Syndicate guys, and then once I started seeing the rest of the Syndicate people, I'm like, no, they're not going in that direction. So why?
Only
Uh,
2 people in the syndicate have names. Everyone else is a goon in a black suit and a
yeah.
white and a red shirt to go like this. Whenever
Does
Vicious talks.
Even
does
Lin and
episode
Shin like were terribly underused, and they
yeah,
were
they're just in the
Were they
background.
even
stereotypes.
in it? Did I
I didn't
miss
even know
that
it
they
was
were
them
there?
until the credits.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think I realized it was them till like later in the show, but they'd been in it
I,
the whole time. Yeah,
I
they
didn't
were
realize
just
until
like
you just now said something.
the two
So
goons that followed Vicious around.
and they is episode 1 or episode 2 where they introduced Annie and Gren? Because I feel like we need to talk about them too.
Yes, for sure. I don't know. We can just talk about them now.
Are we gonna do it now?
I
I think we can transition into. I think it might have been episode 2. I don't
It might
remember
have
anything
been.
else about episode 2 other than
Uh,
that. I think episode
I
2.
have one note.
Okay.
I have one note for it. I believe episode 2 is the garbage fucking blackmail joke.
Oh God,
I
that's
thought
already
that.
gone viral. Like that's already a meme. Like
Oh
I don't know
man,
if you've seen,
I
but
thought that
it's
was
out there.
hilarious. Oh, because
How?
like I want to start off by saying I love Woodcock. I think she is a great character that they added. She's one of the very few characters that they added that I like. And when I just love how I don't
Listen,
know
man,
over the
we can
top she
send a
was.
supply drop to this island you live on. You can
What
go
it's
ahead.
worth, she does the best she can with that fucking line.
Oh yeah,
So, I felt
exactly.
the same way. I was like, God, she didn't write it. It's not her fault. But like if I was reading that and I was just like, paycheck, 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 paycheck. I can come back for season 2. Just fucking say the line.
You can even tell in Jet's face too. He's like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck?"
Dude, yeah, dude. He's got to like the actor of like that plays just has to be like, this is not okay, right? Like we all acknowledge this is fucked up for her to say this to me.
I think it's even written so you're supposed to kind of think like,
Right.
what
You're
is she
supposed to
saying?"
cringe a bit,
But it's supposed to be kind of cringe, but it was a little more cringe. It was. I think it transcended the level of cringe they were going for, and just
maybe.
went to, like,
Yeah.
why was she like that?
Yes.
But I don't know. It
Oh my
clearly, like Jason, you thought it was funny, so it clearly
I
hit
did.
some kind of mark.
And I mean, and don't get me wrong, like there were some lines, some dialogue lines like that one that I thought were ridiculous, but I loved. And then there were some that were ridiculous that were just ridiculous that I hated.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about Anna and Grin.
Yeah.
I really liked Anna. I'll be honest.
I
I like the
I
way they are. She's one of those characters that like we were
very
talking about earlier,
underutilized in the anime arc.
underutilized, and like this is
Yeah.
a cool character that we should flesh out her background, and I think they did that great with her. With Grin, I think they did a terrible job.
This is where the
He's
fanboy in me has to restrain himself because Jupiter Jazz is like my favorite
it's a
episode.
great episode.
So good.
And I just think if you guys fuck this up just so we can have more like trans visibility throughout the
Right.
whole show, I'm gonna
Literally
be
make it
so
just
shitty.
change it to not Gren. Have the exact same character. Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
call him
Yeah.
literally anything else. Because
But
Gren has is
he
so much better of a story and
right.
characterization
What
than like
you mean he has a story? Like
yeah,
he
he's not
has a
just
background. He's an
bitchy, like
interesting character.
He's just not the token
a
like
fucking
Right.
non-binary guy who's
Right.
cartoon like
fucking Julia's
bartender.
gay
Yeah.
BFF.
Like
But like I mean they could have at least made him have some kind of connection to Spike and Vicious, but he was just nothing. He had no point in the
He's only
story
connected
at
to
all.
Julia.
And
yeah,
like
like
a friend of mine that I work with, he was like, "Dude, Grin is awful," and I was like, "No, like and we were still watching it. I was like, I still have hope that by the end of this, they're gonna flesh him out and he's gonna have a great story." But they did
If
nothing with him.
season 2 happens, I think that maybe there's a more of a
you
game.
can't. You
I
can't.
don't think so because like
Because
Spike
you
didn't
can't
know
because
him. He
Gren
didn't
works at the
recognize
bar in the
him.
flashback.
Yeah, no, you can't do like Jupiter Jazz with the elegance that they did it in the original, just because
Yeah.
it's partially just like all of these characters crossing paths with this guy who connects them all and they don't even really know it. Because first Faye spends like a whole episode with him,
Yeah.
not really knowing who he is, and then he and Vicious kind of, and then Spike crosses paths with him at the very end, and it's very like just poetic the way it all plays out.
Yeah.
And you can't possibly execute that because all of these characters have already met.
Yeah.
And it's
I really feel like they're gonna try in like season 2 to like have a Jupiter Jazz type situation, but the
I
problem
think
is
Jupiter Jazz is going to be almost the prevailing structure of season 2.
like if we correct me, but like Gren works at the bar in the flashback, like the second last episode. So like we can't have the like, oh, I served with Vicious on Titan. We can't
No.
have
Well,
like
I
Spike
don't
doesn't even
Did
fucking
Vicious even
recognize
serve
him.
on Titan? Is that even part of
I don't
Vicious's
think
backstory anymore?
the army, and I don't think any of them are in the service. I don't think that's part of the story at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That part of
because
their
Vicious is
background is
like
just
Silver
gone.
Spoon now. He's Daddy's little syndicate boy.
Yeah,
Like I don't think he did do any military time. I think
right.
that's just
I don't
gone.
think any of them
His
did. Yeah.
backstory.
Because like, and they even like Jet even brings that up. Like that's still a thing in this universe. Just none of
Is like,
them
oh, you
were a
to get
part
your
of it.
special ops, right? You have to be.
Right.
Yeah,
And that
it's
annoyed
still a
me
thing because
too.
they're definitely still going to do like Vincent if they make it to season 2, and I think they're going to pull Vincent into the Jupiter Jazz arc. Is my theory.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, I haven't really thought about them trying to pull in stuff from the movie.
I think they will.
Mm.
Let's just do a shot for shot remake of the movie.
My theory is season 2 is Knocking on Heaven's Door plus Jupiter Jazz. Like it's going to be like that kind of stretched into a whole season. And then obviously, I mean, we won't talk about the way that this season ends yet,
I don't know.
but
I feel like season 2 is just gonna go completely off script of the original. I don't think there's. I doubt it's gonna be recognizable just from the way this ended.
You almost have to though. Like honestly, like I said before, I think that they either didn't watch or didn't like the source material. So they're like, we did all your fucking for service, fuck you. And then I think season 2 might just be the just do their own thing.
Right.
And like,
That's how I feel.
I bet they still pull. I bet they still pull from
There'll
the
be
big.
Easter eggs here and there, but I don't think
Yeah.
any significant story points are gonna
yeah,
be
I
there.
think they'll reference some things, but like it's just I don't know about how you guys felt, but like I try to watch this as like agnostic as possible
I've
from
tried
the
to.
original series. And like, if this were just called like I don't know, fucking Space Cowboys or whatever, like it wasn't Cowboy Bebop, we just changed all the names. I feel like the show would just be like moderately successful. I would have watched the first episode and been like, meh, never gone
Yeah,
back and just been done with it.
I would have never gotten through the first episode if it wasn't Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, and it's just like, so what happens if season 2 happens and they go completely away from like, because it's obviously like we don't care, we're
I
not going to do the subject material. It doesn't count.
Let's
Like,
circle back around to and talk about season 2 and what we think is going to happen at the very end.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah,
okay,
get
yeah.
through all this because I do have kind of thoughts on, like in conclusion, like what we can think
Okay.
about for
yeah,
season 2.
I do kind of want to go back to like I don't think in the original, and it's not like that's the thing. It's not something they ever expressly say, but like I think Jet knew Spike's background. He didn't like read it out, like, but like he
They didn't really talk
knew,
about it, but
right?
he
And
acknowledges in the second to last episode. I only know this because I just watched them
yeah,
before we recorded this. When they have the shootout in Real Folk Blues Part 1, and they're digging the bullets out of Jet's leg because Spike is like, "Oh, that's the Red Dragon Syndicate. They are trying to kill us for some reason." And then Jet goes, "But you're not in the Syndicate anymore." Jet
okay,
knows,
okay,
and they
yeah,
just doesn't
right,
care because that's the whole point of the anime. Is it
right,
like,
Jet said fuck the system too. Like Jet
right,
doesn't he's not a cop anymore. He doesn't respect the police. So he doesn't care what Spike's past says because he'd be a hypocrite. To
right.
yeah? And the
But for some
whole
reason in this one, it bothers him to no end, which is
Yeah, because
stupid.
they changed that aspect.
Right.
I think, but even in this one, I think Jed is more bothered by the fact that Spike is supposed to be his partner, but he doesn't tell him anything. And I can sympathize with that. If I was
Yeah.
working with this guy that was consistently putting my life in harm's way, and he would not tell me shit, so
Yeah.
I can even protect myself, I would be as pissed as Jed is at the end.
Right. And you do get a lot of that towards the end of the original anime. Like it does bother him that he leaves and just like Jet tells him not to, but he still does it, and he's putting himself and he's putting everybody in danger, and you definitely get a lot of that like fatherly tone, I think, later in the anime series. but it is just kind of more throughout
Yeah.
this
Well,
show, which is fine.
it feels more earned because like they're supposed to be bounty hunters doing their own thing. So like it's like a pretty consistent like, hey, this person's in trouble, and then everybody else goes, I don't. That's not my problem. Like they're
Yeah,
on their own. And then towards the end, they're literally drunk in a bar because Faye and Ed and Ein are gone.
Yeah.
And they've like pretended to not care about them, but once they're gone, they're like, "Oh, we're so sad that But like
yeah,
they try to pretend like they aren't. Whereas in this, it's like they're all like, "I don't care. I'm a bounty hunter. I do whatever I want." And then like 5 minutes later, we're all looking out for each other, and it's like, I
yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
man.
It's
It doesn't
kind
really
of
feel.
up and down a lot. Yeah,
The forming of the Fellowship in this seems much more forced. It doesn't seem like it just like because in the anime, Fate kind of invites herself, and they don't really are. They're not really like. I
I
mean,
mean,
she does
she
in the show
robs
too,
them
right?
multiple times.
yeah.
Yeah, and they
Once
kind of keep her around at first because she's got a bounty, right? And they're
um,
gonna like turn her in for the bounty because she has a bounty on her head too, right?
I think so.
or they
Anime.
like owe her money. I literally just watched it.
Something. They have some monetary reason to hold on to her when they first like meet her in the anime.
Yeah,
And in this one, it's just like you don't really know why they're tolerating this spoiled brat.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
it's a lot of like they're like, "Hey, you have to go," and then she would be like, "Well, I've got info on like another bounty, so you're gonna keep me around
Yeah.
to
yeah,
go after him," or to
and
be like, "Well, I just emptied your safe, so
yeah,
you're either coming with me
And then
yeah.
or
she
you're
like
not gonna have any money."
sacrifices her
Like,
ship to like
And
save.
she
Yeah.
she doesn't just call them fucking idiots as she's handcuffed to their toilet.
yeah,
Because like that is a scene that's like from the original. Like she's handcuffed to their toilet, and then she like tries to charm her way out of it, and it just doesn't work. And then in this one, she just immediately starts calling them idiots and dickwads and
Yeah.
fucktards and whatever. It's like
In the
it's just not Faye.
there was more of a like suspension of disbelief in the anime though when her charm doesn't work. It's almost funnier because it's like why isn't her charm working? Like these guys are just so emotionally dead inside.
Right?
And they
Yeah,
got this like hot chick and like
yeah.
and she cannot
neither of
seduce
them
her
has seen
way
a
out of the
woman in
situation.
years live alone in space, and this
Yeah,
Yeah.
like objectively pretty person is like, "Hey," I'm like,
yeah,
"Yeah, fuck you,
Like, I don't care.
get on my
yeah.
fucking ship."
I'm too fucking jaded to even give a shit.
Yeah, I will
Um,
say if we want to get into episode 2 was talked
Venus,
about.
is that Teddy Bomber?
I think 3 is
Oh
Teddy Bomber.
yeah, two
No,
wasn't two
is
Teddy
2 Teddy
Bomber?
Bomber?
Who is Teddy
Yeah,
Bomber?
it
Yeah.
was
2
Teddy
Teddy
Bomber.
Bomber? Dude, the
Which they didn't have the cowboy.
They didn't have, yeah. The only time they had like an Easter egg was like when it was in the episode, the Jet episode, where all of the prisoners got loose and it was Uday Taksim and all that. They had Cowboy Andy listed on like the leaderboard,
One of
and I
those
was like,
guys.
well, shit, that's probably all we're
He's
gonna get
out
of
there.
Cowboy Andy. He's
Eh,
in the universe, but that's probably all we're gonna get of him.
I don't know, man. There's still a full season 2.
Yeah,
Which
he could show up. He could show up for sure.
yeah, he probably won't have a horse though. Like
no,
the bit is he has
that
a
would
horse
require a
because of
budget.
space, and it's hilarious that he has
Yeah.
a fucking horse because that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I hated. I'm gonna be honest,
I
like
I zoned
literally
out through most of episode
this
2.
this
I'm not
episode
gonna
was
lie.
the episode where I turned it off, and I was like, a better
Yeah,
version of this
I
exists. I'll
was
just watch
very
that, and then
bored.
you messaged me 20 minutes later, and
I
I'm
feel
like,
like
fuck,
this episode was a lot of vicious. It was a lot of vicious,
Oh yeah.
a
and
lot of
that
vicious.
just meant that
Was that the
Yeah,
one? I think was that the one where he had the gun
and
to
we had
what
to he had to shoot
he had to
Julia.
shoot Julia, and he pulled the trigger. That was fucking stupid.
yeah, hated that. Hated,
Do we want to talk
hated
about
it, hated
Julia
it.
and like
Oh,
she
Julia is
was she was
with
in it
John.
way too much.
Yeah,
Like what made
yeah,
her so cool and interesting in the first one is she was this big mystery, and like you didn't like you had just these glimpses and these flashes of her, but like you didn't. I don't even think you ever heard her speak until like the second to or third to last episode. Like she was like so built up, and it was so
yeah.
cool when you finally met her. Like
The real folk blues that she actually gets a line.
yeah. You
yeah,
see her in a flashback after the church scene when Spike gets thrown out, and
oh
you
yeah,
get again a
And they
level of
talk
elegance
about
and
her a lot in
awesome
Jupiter Jazz.
cinematography that you don't get in the live action one. Is because like Spike is falling out of a window, sees all the shattered glass, and then we flash back to Julia singing and like throwing that note out the window, and like the pieces of paper look like the shattered glass, and that's why he's having this flashback.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, who is this person? Like, oh, this is Julia. She like helped him after he and Vicious got in like a shitty situation. We don't know what it is. And then we get
No,
like that.
she still like basically betrayed him for Vicious. Like that's still like
Well,
the canonical story,
it
right?
sort of. So like that's how we introduced Julia. And then like he
Yeah.
wakes up bandaged up, just like he was bandaged up then, and we hear the song singing, but it's Faye. And then he makes fun of Faye for being bad at singing. And like that's sort of how we get this like parallel between like past, present, but like obviously we're way more jaded in present, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Amazing. None of that here. In the original show, Vicious threatens to kill Julia. Basically uses Julia to kill Spike. He's like, I'm gonna kill both of you, or you're gonna kill him, or I'm gonna kill both of you anyway.
Okay.
And then she ends up tearing up the note and throwing it out the window, and doesn't go with Spike to escape because she thinks it'll get Spike killed. Because she knows Spike's gonna fake his own death. But if she leaves with him, it's not gonna work.
Okay. I it was I'm not gonna lie, that aspect I always never fully understood. Like the Spike and Julia backstory. Like it's very, I mean, the way they tell it is deliberately like very obscured by just the,
Yeah. Well, that's kind of
yeah. It's
yeah. It's
noir.
the bit,
It's
the
you're not
point.
supposed
Yeah.
to fully understand the backstory of the main character. It's supposed to be kind of a mystery.
But yeah. Anyway, back to this fucking episode.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this episode, honestly. I just feel like Teddy Bomber didn't bring anything.
There's no
Um,
reason for it. Like, it was obvious that they were just like, we have to cram a reference in here.
he had
So
that
we're gonna have it on
hilarious
like we can't
rant
afford any
about
explosions. We
capitalism
can
that
afford
isn't.
no explosions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
I'm
gonna
sad we didn't get some version of that like capitalism rant that Teddy Bomber goes on when they finally catch him in the
Right.
original.
The only
Because
well,
that
thing
cruel irony to have for
the only thing
Netflix
we
to
got
reflect it.
was the manifesto that was just gibberish.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like the whole like Ichabod scene, like I was like, I hate this. And then I
Yeah.
was like,
That was
that's
so
actually when I
dumb.
decided to watch the anime. Because I was like, shit, does this happen in the original?
No.
Did I forget this fucking garbage bit? And I did not. That
No.
episode's really good in the anime, and it's
Yeah.
so dumb because it's like one,
The Ichabod
Spike isn't
thing?
an idiot. Like Spike
Yeah,
is not a
space
fucking
it's
moron.
escape pod, but they kept thinking because he had the big teddy
Oh, that's
mask
right.
on
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
they
and they're
couldn't
like the
understand what he was
Ichabod,
saying.
and I was like, oh, the Ichabod bit is like he's trying to distract him because they're gonna do something clever to like stop him, right? And no,
No,
No.
it's just
we're just gonna mishearing him is the entire joke.
there's a
That's
lot
that's
of
the
bits
bit.
that are just very, very lowbrow in this live
Yeah.
action.
Well,
That I'm
there's
just
just
like, come on.
this is
Like,
like again, I'm gonna bitch about this every single episode we talk about. We again set up this whole we have a bomber. We find him. We are trapped on his ship with him. He has found us. He has an armed bomb. How do we get out of this situation? Is it clever? Does it reference something that maybe we talked about earlier in the episode? No. We
no.
just fucking shoot him. Like,
Yeah.
and then we get in the escape pod and leave. And like, it's like, why do any of this? What reason? Like, why does it matter that he worked at a construction company? Why does it matter that his name is Teddy? Why, like, any of this means nothing? Because at the end of the day, he's just there in his fucking underwear. We get like a
Yeah.
dumb bit out of his hat and we leave.
And then he had like scars all over his body and he was missing a hand. And then he walks into the church and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's obviously him." And I was like, "Okay, so that's like the red herring. It's going to be some other guy." But no, that was just him. It was the super obvious guy with burns on his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's with this naming scheme for these episodes? It's like they're trying to like mimic the sort of way that they named the episodes in the original,
Yeah, but they
but
probably for
it's almost like
copyright
they're
reasons
like
they didn't
feeding
want
them
to.
into an algorithm that's kind of like combine music genres with space things.
Yeah, no, that's all it
Just-
is. That's all it
They
is.
did.
That's
They
exactly
Yeah.
what it
didn't
is.
get it.
It had nothing to
didn't
do
get
with music like the original one did.
The episodes are all named after like songs and like albums and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, none of that.
no.
We don't have a single Rolling Stones album in here. Supernova Symphony, is that supposed to be like a champagne supernova bittersweet symphony?
No,
Maybe.
it's just an alliteration. Guys, don't We know
But
better.
I don't know. I'm not even gonna
No,
look at
it's
it.
alliteration. That's the only. Is there a supernova in that episode? No, there isn't, because there's no budget for a
It's
supernova.
not a
I can't have
symphony
that.
either.
No
Yeah.
symphony either. Definitely can afford that.
All right, let's move on to the dog.
Dog Star Swing, episode 3. So this is the
dog,
one where
dog
you
sucked. Can anybody back me up on this?
what?
It just wasn't really there. Like,
What sucked?
The dog. They couldn't find a more charismatic corgi to play Nine.
Ein? I don't know.
I
fucking
felt the dog
names.
was. I think the dog was underutilized. Although rewatching the original, Ayn doesn't do nearly as much as I remember.
No, Nine's
Yeah,
just
he's-
there to be cute.
Kind of chilling, to push buttons when we need like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody's like, how does the crew figure out how to solve this puzzle? And they're like, the dog does it.
the dog.
So
Like, just
also,
have the fucking dog do it.
and also, like, did they change it so he's not a data dog? It's just that dogs are so rare in the future that just
Yeah.
dude,
by virtue of being a dog, he is extremely
fucked me up.
valuable.
So hard. Like I
didn't-
literally like dogs are rare now with like 5 question marks.
I don't hate that. I actually thought that was kind of clever, but then they still kind of used his data dog stuff for later. So that's
But-
where I got confused.
Yeah,
The problem is if dogs are super rare, it doesn't make sense to turn them into like weird mobile computers.
Right. So it
Yeah.
doesn't well, he's not. They don't introduce at all that he's a data dog. Do they?
well, he's not really a data dog. He's just like he's a dog with
Dog.
I don't know
They're,
with
like,
shit they
Downloaded
put
a
in him.
crazy
That
man's
it's
memories
hacked
into for
later
reasons
on,
that
and
we
he's
don't
got-
talk about.
He's got projectors in his eyes.
Projectors in his eyes.
God, that was so dumb.
We're gonna get to that.
That was so dumb.
We're gonna get to that. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. One, honestly, the biggest. This is actually where I first called out the fact that blue and orange really carry the show. What I hated the most about this was that we took from the show a really cool, like, it's just a Bruce Lee reference to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right, in Game of Death. That's that whole character, and it's cool. And he's one of like 3 guys that can actually fight Spike without just getting the shit beat out of him. And we turn it into like this weird nerdy guy for like most of the episode who just like hates rich people's dogs.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did we like we had a cool dude who was stealing a thing that made sense to steal, and we had like a fun mix up, and we could do like the this is just a dog, why is it valuable kind of thing. And then we find out
Oh,
later it is really valuable. And
Right.
then, like, but instead it's just like he just hates rich people and can't kill their dogs, so I guess he just starts his own like humane society.
Kind of
Like
eating the gate calamity thing or whatever it is, because doesn't he talk about how his family all got killed and the gate collapsed?
Yeah.
So like they're kind of planting the seeds there to like, but then they never go anywhere with that, at least in this season.
No,
So
yeah.
You know, it's a super easy way to do both. Hey, my family was killed when the gate exploded, and I was forced to commit crime. So now I'm stealing this data dog
Yeah.
from the family I used to like clean their house, and they ran the data dog company or fucking whatever. Done, did it.
Yeah.
We
I'm
get
just
both.
trying to make an
Like-
effort to call out where they had good ideas. I'm not saying any of those good ideas were executed very well, but like there are just little moments where I'm like, I see where you were going in the writer's room with that decision. It's just like what the writing glimpses at doing well immediately gets fucked up in execution. So it's just it's very frustrating.
And I
Yeah.
think this, I wanted to talk about this earlier, but we kind of got off track. I think this is the perfect episode that where I was like, okay, the action is just bad.
Yeah,
Because in the
choreography is
TV
terrible.
show, the choreography is just like, it's so smooth and fluid and very, like you said, it's very Bruce Lee. Like it goes quickly. But in this one, it's like punch, cut, kick, cut. And it's like, it's so slow, and it a lot of times
We're almost
the
missing,
action
like-
scenes just last too damn long.
Yeah.
I mean, in this episode in the anime, it's literally a Bruce Lee fight. Like they
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
animated it from one of his shows. Like
Yeah,
that's
I didn't
the
know that,
whole bit.
but I
Yeah,
believe
that's
it.
The whole bit is
Yeah.
that he's fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Well, in Venus, what's a Waltz for Venus? I'm pretty sure like Spike gives that one dude almost line by line Bruce Lee like training
About
speed.
the nunchucks, right? Or
Oh,
No, the thing
The-
the water. That's
the-
like you gotta be
you
like
have to be
water.
like
The
flow like
water.
water. Yeah,
That's-
that's
I'm pretty
absolutely
sure that's almost like
Yeah, it
straight
is.
ripped out of a Bruce Lee movie.
oh yeah.
Must flow like water. Water takes the shape of its thing. If you're in a bowl, water is the shape of a bowl. Yeah. 100%. Didn't fucking do that though. No, made it super lame. Also, so I have a lot of notes in this episode.
Okay, go for it.
Because I
got
watched
nothing in
it.
this episode.
Probably the angriest I have been in a non violent situation probably my entire life. Like this is the angriest I've ever been where like my physical safety wasn't in jeopardy. Partially because you made me do this. And I will resent you.
We didn't
For, like,
make
at
you
least
do
a
anything.
while.
We said we're
You know
doing this
better.
thing. You are welcome to do it with us.
You know damn well I can't say no to literally anything. Especially if it's ranting about a thing on the internet.
Yeah.
Content, baby. So the dogs being rare thing, I hated it. I think that if Ein were just like a super rare dog in the original, like maybe, but the fact that he's supposed to be a data, like there's like other shit that we've stripped away by virtue of like we just didn't want to explain what data dogs were because we thought they were too silly, which takes us back again to we were embarrassed by our source material. One, Spike answers a phone call from an unknown number. That's bullshit. Fucking nobody in the history, like there's absolutely no way in the future that's the thing we start doing, right? Two, we fucking meet Vicious like through the eyes of our main characters via a phone call, right? We meet Vicious in the anime. We meet him in a dope church fight, saving Faye. In the live action, it's a phone call from a dude who's just like, hear this? Dumb.
Yeah, that scene was really bad.
Vicious is such a little bitch. Faye makes no sense. Like her whole weird like thing is awful. We've already talked about it. They got how corgis pee wrong. Like that's how like off fucking base we are. Like somebody CG'd like a corgi leg coming like way up to pee. Corgis don't pee that way. They squat down. They're just super short. They don't do that. I'm sorry.
You think I CG'd that?
I just think it was terrible casting.
I confirmed with other corgi owners because I have a corgi.
Yeah.
I know other people have corgis,
yeah.
and I was like, they were like, when his leg comes up, that's definitely somebody with like a green like hook, so they can like green screen it out, like pulling his leg up, right? Like,
So that means
never thought
the
about
entire time that corgi was on set, nobody took that dog out to pee to learn how a corgi actually goes.
I absolutely believe it. Also, this is with like the weird brothels and stuff. First of all, Spike is now like a weird sex guy. Like he's just like super into like weird sex and like
he always probably was.
Well, he's not though, because his whole bit is that he doesn't like women. He mentions it a lot.
No,
a lot.
He doesn't like women with attitudes.
That's true. That is true. But here's the other thing, and I didn't know if we were going to talk about this or not, but like the whole weird bidet thing. Like he's this weird sex guy who's like into paying hookers like extra for like weird, unspoken, horrible future space sex acts. But like the idea of a bidet is he's just super grossed out. Like he just can't imagine Jet liking a bidet. Like I was just like, what the fuck?
This is not a feasible future.
Why are we talking about this? Also, yeah, there's no water. There's no water now. There's no way we've got spare water for fucking bidets in the future. On Mars? Fuck you. And then like the weird giant like space hookah. Like thank God we had a giant space hookah just like in the lobby of the bar so that we could shoot it to like.
That is actually full of opium. Like they're just wasting all that fucking opium in their display hookah. Yeah, right.
Literally, like I have a note that just says, "Thank God that massive heroin hookah was there." Like, and like Faye is like this, like gets hit on by that lady, or is that the next episode? When does Faye get hit on? I think I might have.
Yeah, that's
the mechanic.
Okay. That's
she get like we get
a little.
That's down. That's like episode 6.
I think I might have skipped some things. So the heroin hookah is in the Ein one, right? Because like they go down and like they go to the brothel.
I don't really remember.
No, that's episode 5. Because that's the one where we get Jet's all his background stuff. So you're kind of jumping around a little bit, but
yeah, you're jumping around.
I thought the broth. This is how much this fucking runs together for me, guys. Is I thought the brothel episode was the same.
Well, we can move on. If we want to move on from this episode,
we can just move on.
Right here. It just Jet brings Ein to his daughter, and then Alyssa's like, "Get this dog out of here."
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna fucking say. What the fuck? You can't have dogs be super rare and then have him walk in with one, and then the mom be like, "Get that $200 million thing out of my home." What the fuck?
I don't hate any of the Jet stuff. Honestly, I thought like
This
it's
got
not.
nothing to do with Jet as a character.
Yeah.
You can't say that this dog is so rare that people who literally fly around the galaxy all the fucking time have never seen one before. You happen to get one, give it to your daughter instead of selling it, and your ex-wife sees a incredibly expensive dog, and she just goes, "Get that! You can't have that here."
I mean, they did have a line that like explained why,
She's
and
like, you're not gonna make him fall in love with something that, yeah,
well
I don't know.
but she was like, we can't afford the taxes on it, and
Yeah.
that was just a line explaining why. Like they
And
had the
it's
thought
consistent with
before
a
they
little
had the
bit.
explanation.
I think
The
it's
taxes? Are they
sort of
going to claim the
confusing. They
dog on
wouldn't
their
have made that
taxes?
something that's that rare,
It's
right?
so rare that Faye's literally never seen one.
Yeah, and
It is
so
so
like it
rare
would
that
probably
like
be an
when they saw
expectation
it, they were like, "Holy shit,
that
that's a
the only
dog."
dog owners on a planet, you'd probably have to pay some kind of taxes, and it explains why only rich people really have them and why it's a symbol of privilege and wealth.
That's fine. Sell the dog.
Yeah, I mean, it was. You know what? Well, I will say though, one of the I think low key MVPs of this entire live action remake who never drops the ball in the very few little bits of screen time they get is the guy who's fucking Jet's wife.
Chalmers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is he even in the
he
original? Or is he a totally
yeah
new
he's
character?
a bit part, but yeah, he's in it. But yeah, he's honestly like an
He's
interesting
pretty
character
good.
with a pretty good arc, like a better arc
Yeah.
than most of the people in the show.
He's pretty solid. He's actually
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, doing his best. You know what?
Yeah,
You guys have told me. You know what?
and I
No more
liked.
Cowboy Bebop. Chalmers spin-off series. I just want to follow this guy. Just trying to connect with his daughter
I
that isn't really his.
I
Yeah,
just felt like all the Jet backstory stuff just kind of worked for me. I
yeah.
always liked I liked the Alyssa backstory from the original, so I'm kind of sad that that's probably not going to happen
Oh
now.
yeah, no,
But
that's
like,
definitely different.
um, I just still think it's good.
Yeah,
Like I
I
like I
agree
thought that stuff
because
was
like
done pretty well.
what was great about the original is yeah, they were all these loners. Like they all kind of had no one, so they bonded over that, even though they were all kind of fucked up and they had a hard time bonding, but they kind of just did because they were around each other. And
Mhm.
you do lose that when Jet has a family. That
I'm comfortable with changes here and there. If it
right,
means like
right.
creating a new kind of story that can function a little bit better.
I don't look forward to like his daughter. Like his like we're gonna completely forget about this dude's kid
Yeah,
until we need to like in the
it's going to be
finale.
a plot device that comes back
She's gonna
when
get kidnapped so
it needs
much, dude.
dates. Yeah.
She's gonna be in danger. She's gonna be on the spaceship on vacation. That's gonna be like the Speed 2 thing where like it's gonna get blown up and yeah, it's
I
just
don't
gonna be
know.
this weird contrived coincidence where she's always
Hopefully
in danger.
Hopefully they're smart enough not to do the whole kidnap thing again because they already
Oh
did it.
man,
But like,
Oh
I
God, I
I
would
they
love
love
your
might
to
optimism
they
though.
cast
might.
these fucking writers,
What is the world like for you? How many singing
Jeez, it's
cartoon
not as
woodland
fucking
creatures are
miserable
singing
as
behind
yours,
me?
Danny. Jesus. But I am with Kevin on this one. I think it's okay that she's got or that she exists, and I don't know. I like that he's got a daughter. I don't know.
Oh,
Do
I
we
feel
want to
like
hop to the next episode, or we still have more to
yeah,
say about this one? So
let's go.
Yeah,
Callisto's soul is the eco terrorists,
yeah.
and I
With the
actually have to say this was one of the better episodes for me.
I swung really hard between being like, "Oh, this is good," to like, "Oh my god, I hate this," back to, "Oh, it's okay again." I love the change of the virus.
It's world building because they're actually going into and
uh-oh.
you're learning a little bit about how like the terraforming works, and you have this thing that turns people into trees, and it
Which is
was really
terrifying.
fucked up to watch it happen.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was I just liked it, and the whole and you're folding in phase like My Funny Valentine arc into like kind of the whole season, and you're planting the seeds here, which I think like for restructuring it to be more of a Western style show rather than the like Japanese anime, like 26 episodes of individual stories. I think it makes sense to take some of those arcs and stretch them out and kind of like adjust them a little bit, and I think they did it well by kind of setting up her backstory in this episode without going fully into it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I still think I like them turning into monkeys more than trees, though.
I
It
mean,
was
Turning into a
different.
monkey to me seems much more terrifying because it's like a long-lasting, permanent thing.
Yeah.
Where like if you turn
Yeah.
into a tree, I feel like you're just dead. Like you have
Yeah.
no more consciousness anymore at that point.
But like the thing, like you have
Trees
to
are
make that change because you have to, because like the episodes are twice as long. Trees
And
don't go anywhere.
let's be real, this set did not budget monkeys.
True. That I'm sure
That too.
that factored into
The,
it.
the monkeys are barely in the anime. They just show like the
Yeah,
tubes.
but
That's true.
it's easy to throw away a monkey for one half of a scene in an anime because you just have to draw it and then forget about it. But
Yeah.
like they had to like get trained monkeys and
You
monkey
got to
handlers,
hire a monkey,
Well, you would.
and you got to
Yeah,
hire
hire
a
a
CG
monkey.
team to transition a dude into a monkey.
and you got to go through all the legal to put all of these actors in a room with a bunch
Well,
of
no,
monkeys.
I mean it's all CGI
Like,
monkeys, right? You call the Planet of the Apes guys in, and it's all CGI monkeys.
oh
And
God, no, I
monkeys.
would not want to see CGI monkeys.
It's all CGI
I'm
monkeys. They all got big
for a
nose.
number of reasons I'm okay with the trees. I
I
do
like
miss
the
the
trees,
monkeys
and
were fun.
the monkeys are fun. I liked that you could, because that's how they discover that one it's a construction site because everyone's a tree already. Like they get there
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah,
like, oh, cool, like they've been here, and I was like, oh, this is a good. I dig
to the
it.
farm. Yeah,
And
This
honestly,
is
the eco terrorists within themselves kind of had like a decent.
they felt very similar to the anime in a good way.
this
Yeah,
is my least favorite episode of the anime.
I think it is a lot of
it
people's.
is one of the weaker links in the
I
anime because it's
didn't
kind of in
dig
that early. It's when it's in the early when they're like batting 100, and then they just have this one episode that it's like, isn't this like
Yeah,
episode 4?
It's
it's
super
real
early,
early. Yeah,
It's
and
like,
it's also
yeah,
it's almost too cartoony because they're like eco terrorists, but
yeah.
like because like they're built off of a previous just like activism group that like wasn't terrorists.
yeah.
So all of their marketing stuff is still very like cheerful and like save the planet while they're like murdering people, which I think was meant to be funnier than it really is. Because like they
I
would kill everybody and then like drop a canister that looks like a grenade, and then
I
it would be like
remember
sea rats.
Yeah.
I remember I think the last time I watched through Cowboy Bebop on this episode, I thought this episode is boring, but there's so much potential to do this better in a live action remake. I
Yeah.
remember thinking that the last time I watched this episode, thinking like this is one of the ones that has the most fodder for being able to like bring something more to these characters, and I don't know.
Yeah, the problem is it's a very Faye heavy episode, and I think Faye missed the mark the most.
Yeah.
But Faye, I really think they needed to just embrace that they were turning her into a totally different character because the further this Faye gets away from the Faye we know, I think the most it works. It's
Yeah,
when you're
Yeah.
trying to make this Faye act like the Faye we love that it
Yeah.
just is so cringe.
Because
And
it
you're
was
just like,
at
"Oh,
this
you're not
point that
going off the one-liners."
I hated Faye the most.
Yeah.
In the later
this is the episode she
episodes,
gets hit on, right?
hmm?
Is this the one where she hooks up with that lady?
I
No.
don't think so because she's very active she was a B plot in that episode. Spike and Jet were off doing something and she was
Yeah.
just banging the mechanic.
Yeah.
Um
That was episode 6 when they like first talk about Ed and they do the whole Dr. Londes thing and Spike's in the machine with the thing on his eyes.
oh,
Oh,
that was
that
the brain
that is
scratch.
that the one. I'm gonna
That's
be
the one.
honest. That I watched that episode really drunk.
I want to wrap up Callisto's Soul and then move on to the next one. I don't think there's that
I
much
wanna.
more to say.
I do want to ask one
Unless you
question.
do.
I was about to ask before we stopped. How do you feel about the change in the ending?
Is that with where Faye like sacrifices her ship?
I mean,
Yeah,
probably. I
what
mean,
part of it? What part of the end?
so in the original, they have the virus on board
Mhm.
because Spike slipped it into her like pocket as she like went by,
Yeah.
and then like because they get stuck in hyperspace, right? And then like they close the hyperspace gap, and like the missiles don't blow up everybody. We can't do that because we don't have any budget.
Mhm.
But
No space.
then like the thing comes out of her pocket and like shatters, and they all like it's like implied that they're all doomed to be monkeys in hyperspace.
Right.
Right? Hyperspace monkeys, band name, call it. In the live action, it's like a disgruntled like member of the organization.
It's the daughter.
Her daughter.
It's the daughter, yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
daughter just like
The
pulls
mom.
out the grenade and just goes, "I don't like you."
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
kills
Yeah.
It
both
was
of them.
awesome.
I thought that was cool too.
Yeah. They both have their merits. Like I think the anime had more of a goofy feel to this episode, whereas this, I mean, the whole live action is goofy, is camp for
Yeah.
sure. But this one they didn't go with that just absurd ending. They went with a more, I I might say, barring the obvious like lack of quality that this entire live action has, on paper, I think Callisto's Soul is kind of an improvement upon the source material.
I only ask because to me, that is like the perfect microcosm of like changes made, right? Because in the anime, we get this sort of insight, like because like Spike's like fucking with that thing, pretending like he doesn't know what it is, while she gets like super nervous because she knows what it is, and then we find out at the end of the episode he noticed, right, that this thing is bad, and then he slips it on her. And if we don't have that moment, that takes away a sort of like glimpse into Spike's character and becomes more of a like
Interesting.
there's just clearly there's inner turmoil because like she's been yelling at her kids the entire time. And then like they just finally snap and they're like, instead of going to prison, I'm gonna turn us both into trees and kill both of us. And I felt again, this is one of those, if it was just a standalone show, I'd be like, that's fine. Perfectly good way to end it, right?
Mm.
Like we're just finally fed up and our master plan didn't work, screw you, we're both gonna die. But it's just another time where we like could have had like a really interesting look into like a character and a fun flashback that would have had some subtlety to it. And it's just gone.
I
Just
don't know,
was
I'll have
gone.
to take your word for that one because, like,
I don't
I
remember that about Spike.
right, I feel like he just learned what it
He does
was
shit like
throughout
that
that.
all the time. Like he's always like taking
Right.
things in and out of people's pockets and like sort of like being more aware of the situation than he lets on.
Yeah,
And
but
that's like our
but
first glimpse of it.
with this one specifically, I felt like he just learned what that thing was throughout the course of the episode.
I I feel like we got that more in the casino episode from Spike when he like is pickpocketing the chip, which that's an episode I'm sad we didn't get some
Yeah.
version of, because I think that's a great introduction for Faye, and the fact that they got rid of that whole episode and then just pushed her into Asteroid Blues kind of sucks.
That would have been yeah.
Yeah.
When we opened on the casino, I was like, oh, we're just gonna cut straight to Faye as like blackjack dealer. And
Which
then,
realistically, they probably could have combined those entire 2 episodes into the pilot for this,
they should have
but they
honestly,
decided,
if it's me, I think you do that opening and then you flash back and
yeah,
then you do the lead up.
Yeah.
and you tell them in 2 different kind of.
You do the memento thing, right? Like you have them kind of all blowing up, and then like maybe have Faye save them at
I
like the
love
very end of
flashbacks
that thing.
as a storytelling device. Speaking of flashbacks as a storytelling device, one of the main writers on this, Javier Grillo Marxuch, was one of the lead writers when Lost was good.
Oh yeah.
And so that's why I really had hopes that this might actually have some legs, because he's kind of the guy that came up with all the lore, and like Damon Lindelof really credits him as being one of the guys instrumental in unfucking what J.J. Abrams fucked on Lost.
Yeah.
And
It really is a career path nowadays.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and I really I'm disappointed in him specifically. I don't know how much he was credited as an executive producer for this show, so he must have had some kind of serious influence on it. But I don't know. I would have expected a little bit better, and that's sad.
Were there specific episodes that he wrote? Do you know?
He specifically wrote. Let me see. I can actually pull that up here right now. He's an executive producer for the entire thing.
Okay.
He specifically wrote cast and crew. He wrote one episode. He's credited as writing what episode. I'm going to figure out which one that was.
Okay.
He wrote the clown,
Okay.
which
That's one of the only good episodes.
Yeah.
that one worked. All
That was a
right,
good
so
one.
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's continue on though, if we're good. Oh, real quickly, I want to talk about how we feel about Faye basically giving up her ship and that being the thing that strands her on the Bebop. But she like sacrifices her ship, right? She
Yeah.
like to take out a missile, and then
And
do we
then
think that
Jet
was,
and Spike went and found her and brought her back to the ship.
Yeah.
and like
And
that's
so
why
I
mean,
she's
felt
with the
like,
crew.
okay, there's some camaraderie here. I
I
I
think
remember at the time thinking, okay, so that works, sort of.
Yeah, and I do like because Spike does say I didn't want to, but Jet was like, it's the least we could do,
Which
and
which
that
is
makes
funny.
sense for Jet and Spike, and I
It
do like
does.
that.
But it's also funny that in the moment when it's happening, Spike is the one that knows what she's doing. Spike's the one that she's saving her ass. So it's like it's cool that Spike will not fess up to how much he recognized what she did. Does
Yeah,
that make sense? I think
yeah,
that was a good character moment for
yeah,
Spike.
and that does feel very Spike.
Yeah. Doesn't I don't know if it feels very Faye though. It feels this version of Faye.
I
Yeah,
think I think if it were in the anime, there probably is like more focus on her like decision to do it. Like it would have been like, I'm not gonna screw you guys, not my problem. You get like a little more back and forth, and then it's like whatever, and then she like does it.
It would have
But
I feel like in the anime it would have been a little bit more random spur of the moment, her not even realizing what she's doing, but kind of accidentally doing it, and then going along with it and just kind of accepting their gratitude. Like that feels more like the Faye from the anime, whereas this Faye seems like she's got a little
yeah,
bit more of a heart. Well, Faye still had a heart of gold, but it was very, very deep. Whereas this Faye, I think, is a little bit more of a good person, closer to the surface.
well, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about where I'm like, I try not to get too into like, would that person like say or do this thing when it's
Sure.
like a different medium? Because it's like, maybe, maybe not. Like, I could buy it either way. And if it wasn't the original, you'd be like, yeah, that was a kind of weird break from character, but it's still believable. And I think that kind of falls into that area.
yeah,
And from a writing perspective, we need to find a reason to keep her on the ship.
Yeah. Which I think it was all right. They did it all right. I don't hate that decision from a writer perspective.
yeah,
Yeah. Do we want a Dark Side Tango? What
Dark
do you guys
Side
think
Tango,
about?
baby. This is Black Dog Serenade, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, this is a good episode, I think.
I think
It's
it's half good. I think
it's
the
not
jet parts of it are very good.
yeah. I think even the Spike and Faye stuff is silly, but it's decent character development when they're just like sitting in the Bebop and they can't agree on a bounty to go after, and they just are bragging about people they've bagged in the past. Feels like we're starting to like at least this version of Cowboy Bebop is starting to settle into what it wants these characters to be.
I hate bottle episodes.
I love
I
bottle
love
episodes.
bottle episodes.
Yeah, not for me. I hate bottle. I hate them. I hate bottle
This isn't
episodes.
a
Oh,
full bottle episode
No,
because
it's a
it's
half a bottle.
not.
That's why the parts with jet are very good.
yeah.
And then the other half, which is just a bottle episode, talking about shit that I don't care. I
Dude,
don't
some of
care.
the
It
best
doesn't matter
Cowboy
to me.
Bebop episodes are bottle episodes, though.
Yeah, man. Toys in the
Even better
attic
than the original. Toys in the Attic
is
is the
such a good
win
one.
bottle episode.
Yeah,
Which one's Toys in the Attic?
The lobster in the fridge that kills everyone.
I
yeah.
fucking hate that episode. I skipped it.
That episode?
I skipped it.
Oh,
I
it's so
skipped it.
good.
I hate it. I was on a
Oh
time
man.
crunch and I was like, I don't even like this episode. I skipped it. I hate it.
Oh
No.
man, you shouldn't have skipped it. It's way better. It's probably better than you remember it. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna say that.
The
yeah,
thing is, it's just a ripoff of the Blob, which is a movie I really like. And
Yeah,
uh,
everything in
um,
Cowboy Bebop's just a ripoff of something, though. The
that's
yeah, I
whole
know.
true.
thing is an
Yeah,
And
homage to filmmaking, and
that's
but
honestly not to
they
get too far from what we're doing here. The reason I think the live action doesn't work as well is because Bebop is a bunch of like influences from stuff, and then the live
do.
action is influenced from the influenced thing. And
yeah.
yet, if you've learned anything from the film Multiplicity, you never make a clone of a clone, and that's what we've done here. It doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I
that's yeah.
I kind of like that argument. I can see that for sure.
Like it's very like if somebody like if I turned my camera off and Arnold Schwarzenegger was like in my house right now, and I did an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, and actual Arnold Schwarzenegger talked into my microphone, you would think my impression was better because you don't actually know what he sounds like. You just know what all the impressions sound like. Like we're just so used to these like impressions of impressions that I feel like
Yeah.
I
Well,
think that's the biggest thing they miss is like why is the heart and soul gone? It's because we're doing an like an imitation of an imitation.
It was a tribute even in its original form. So
Yeah, and tributes to tributes sound weird because it's like, why are we trying to do a send up of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar imposter again? Right? Like it's like another. It's like a third.
that's yeah, you make a
Yeah.
solid argument there.
And I mean, you just think
But
about what on its surface level Bebop, like the original Bebop is. I mean, it's a sci-fi space western noir. Like it's already this mashup of all different kinds of things. And then you just look at the episode titles and there's influences from all different kinds of genres of music, and it is just this mashup that works really
film, it's
well.
a classic
it,
film.
and that is what
Yeah,
I think the jet parts of this episode work. That's kind of why I bring it up.
Well, the
Is
jet parts are so similar. Like they
right.
took
that's a,
so few
they're
liberties.
super similar, but
Yeah.
like the reason that it doesn't have the same emotional impact is the originals are influenced by a bunch of like very specific like noir films and stories, and like
Yeah.
they meet in like a rundown drive-in and
I
they're
kind of
watching old
remember.
movies because there's like this whole we can't let go of the past thing because Jet's pretending to be a cop again. Like, and when you try to imitate that with less budget, uh it's still good.
I kind of remember Black Dog Serenade being kind of a slow episode though.
Oh, it's super
Like
slow, but that's the
and just
it.
thinking like this is the one that I kind of get bored in the middle of, even though it's only 20
Yeah.
minutes long. I always feel like, and it's good. It's like
Like one of my
it's
favorite episodes.
good episode, but I just always remember this is the one that I kind of zone out and get bored and like kind of lose track of what's going on in the middle because I don't know why. It just
No,
it
it's because it's super noir. They
yeah.
convey a lot through dialogue as opposed to usually Bebop's very like
And very
show don't
it's
tell, you
slow
know.
and it's
Yeah.
slow and it's down tempo and it's like you don't have Spike dancing through zero gravity doing fucking Bruce Lee moves like
No, yeah, it's Jet in a trench coat and we slowly pan over in black and
talking
white.
to another old guy in a trench coat
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the
and
light kicks on and you get shot and whatever.
yeah.
Like
But this is something that it just seemed very inconsistent to me as to where like okay, so if you're a fan of the original show, you know how the story's going to go. You know Fad is the dirty cop that screwed Jet over the whole time.
I think you know that anyway. They foreshadow, like not foreshadow, like they beat you over the head with he's definitely the
Probably,
dirty cop.
maybe. I mean, I don't remember the first time I watched it. I don't
No,
fucking
I mean in
remember.
the
It's
live
been so
action. The
long.
live action. No, in the live action they beat you
Oh,
over
the
the head
live
with it.
action.
Oh,
It's super obvious.
I don't know.
Who do
That's
you think
hard
the
to
dirty
say.
cop is? Oh, I don't know. Like, get the fuck
Well,
out of here.
but
Like,
but again,
in the
I'm
live
looking, I'm
action,
watching, I'm thinking
they
that
have
through the
introduced
lens
a
of
lot of
having watched
characters.
their show already. Like, I can't say like if I showed this to my brother or something, like if he's never watched the original, would he immediately pick that up? I
okay,
don't
I
know.
so
I
I
think the
watched.
misdirection is actually better in this one because they've already introduced that Chalmers guy, and they really are playing you to think he's the dirty cop.
Yeah.
See,
And
I didn't. I don't know. I haven't seen this. I watched it after I watched the live action, and I haven't seen the original for like probably 8 years.
yeah,
And so I had kind of forgotten a lot of this stuff, and I was like,
and you still
"Oh,
immediately
cool.
you
Yeah,
know.
no, your partner's. You're an idiot. Like, this is why you're not a cop anymore. You suck at being a cop because obviously the dirty cop is the fucking guy driving the car. You're dumb."
Okay.
Like,
But
Uh,
anyways, my whole point of this is like it's very faithful to the original, and it's great because of that. But then like even the way the story is told, again, like you don't know till the end who the bad guy is. You don't know who he is. But then like when you get to Faye's backstory, they change it so much and they just tell you up front this is the bad guy. And like and maybe we should talk about it more when we get to that episode, but like
it might be the next episode, so we if
it's two more episodes. But yeah, we'll talk about that more, I guess, when we get to it. But I just
yeah.
I think the way that they changed Faye's story and they kept this part of Jet's story so faithful to the original was just it was contrary to each other. It was kind of the way the whole show was.
Well, I can tell you why. I think my theory anyway.
Okay.
Um, Jet story is super easy, right? It's just a good cop who got screwed over by his dirty partner. We can do that super easy. We don't have the budget for the space prison. That's okay. We'll just use a bunch of storage containers.
Uh-huh.
Faye's story required me to watch the entire show. And takes a bunch of time to explain, and we have to have like VHS and Betamax tapes, and like ultimately, it's just so much easier to just make up our own thing.
I don't know,
Like,
man, because like that the whole what's his name, Whitney Haggis Matsumoto, like he's only in one episode, well maybe two, but like they explain that whole story arc in 20 minutes.
yeah, but like then we get like the tapes that get sent from her like childhood to her, and like
Which
we
they
sort of
condensed into one episode because in my well, let's wait to talk about that
Okay,
until we
all
actually
right,
get to Galileo Hustle though, because
okay,
I'm gonna keep coming back to the fact that like the reason Jet gets to be the best part of the live action remake is because everything about Jet existed in the Netflix algorithm machine already.
that's a fair
maybe,
point. I
yeah,
think
Like,
you can definitely make that argument. I think Jet was the easiest to translate because it was
yeah, he's this like weird mother bear, like pseudo parental figure who got done dirty by the law, and that's why he's a bounty hunter, but he's still got a code of ethics,
and
which
even
sounds like
then
half of the guys from The Wire. So like we
yeah,
sort of
even then
have,
he was a send off to a send up to like classic noir tropes. And they knew what they were doing when they wrote him that way in the anime. Like he was just it
well,
was
yeah, I mean, and this was written by a bunch of like people who work in like Marvel and like other like those guys have all seen like those guys probably all wrote very long papers on like Casablanca and like all these other like old black and white films for like film
somehow we're not
schools.
able to like write noir as effectively as a Japanese woman.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, but it's because we're doing an imitation of this Japanese woman's noir and imitation of actual noir. So like they kind of got the point and therefore did it better, but we're still trying to cram stuff from a universe that we just aren't in. And like
Right.
that's why everything feels weird. It's like, oh, here's this moment from the original. Why doesn't this work?
I
Because
do give them
that's
a
not what we're
little bit of
doing right now.
credit, and I'm gonna save this point for that clown a go go. But do you guys want to move on to binary two step, or do we
Yes.
have more to talk about? And
I think we move on.
no, yeah, we're good. Let's go on.
um, binary two step is basically brain scratch. He goes in. I don't think it's nearly as compelling as being the kid in the coma who's doing all this
Yeah,
in the end. I do think the episode is cool, kind of in its own right for what it does. It kind of sets up Spike's backstory in a way without actually forcing you to meet Vicious and Julia. It can still kind of put them into this episode and kind of establish everything. That being said, the fact that they did this doesn't really mean anything because you've already forced Vicious and Julia into too much of this story at this point. So like seeing them here is not very cool. It's kind of like, oh god, the shitty characters are infiltrating like the part of the show that's actually kind of fun.
You want to hear one of my notes?
What's
Thank God we introduced Julia in a shitty side character way.
you know what, Julia, like that actress, her and John Cho were the only two people I had even
They're
heard of.
trying, man. They're trying so hard.
And
They just
she's not a bad actress. It's just that this script was just what she was handed was such hot garbage.
no one in the
Like
show is bad at their job. They are
I would,
like
yeah,
even the guy who plays Vicious, that dude is trying so hard, man. Like
he
Vicious
has a
sucks,
terrible
but
script.
like the script is like he's half those lines. Like if you were to ever watch this again, like don't, but like if you were to ever watch this again, every time Vicious is on screen, don't think this is Vicious. Instead, pretend you're that actor, and you have been told to, in all seriousness, say these things as a high-ranking mafia member,
Becomes the most compelling character immediately.
and then be like again, like the true character that I relate to is no one who's actually in this like universe. It is the man playing Vicious. That is like I want that movie. Where's the biodoc of this guy being like, I am classically trained British actor. I have done Hamlet, and I'm fucking doing this bullshit. Like, this dude probably watched the cartoon. He was like, dope. I'm gonna have like 4 lines. I'm gonna get a paycheck. I'll get a Funko Pop of my face. This is awesome. And they're like, here's your script and like a fucking like
He's the
encyclopedia
invisible
dropped on his
man in
desk.
The Boys.
no, is he?
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him in anything, and like this, same thing. Like I hadn't seen anybody in anything except for John Cho.
I've seen Elena Satine, who is Julia. She was in Magic City, which was a great show, but she was decent in it. She's not a bad actress, is the point. Like
Yeah,
it's just
this
that
show
Julia
just doesn't
is a
show
bad
that.
actress.
So this is
Um,
something I don't know if you guys like care as much or notice as much as I do. But the amount of Dutch angles in this
oh
series
yeah,
are everywhere, and like literally half my notes are just me typing out the word Dutch
another
angles
Dutch
in all
angle.
caps.
Cool, thank you. Needed that.
Literally, Dutch angles, drink, you'll die. That's the only rule you need.
Yeah.
And this fucking episode, because it's like supposed to be like trippy computer stuff, the cameraman is a pirate. Like he is just a man who's just like missing part of his leg, and just everything is fucking sideways for the entire goddamn episode.
Dutch angles and
Did,
Cowboy
did,
Bebop? I don't think there were.
There
well, yeah,
might
that's what I was
be.
about to say. Like, I feel like the show had a lot of Dutch angles.
That's what I'm
Maybe not.
saying. There are so many. I mean, like everything has Dutch angles. Like it's just it's a
Yeah.
framing device. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
if you want to make your audience feel kind of uncomfortable, you tilt the camera a little
Or
bit. Like
just
that's
alien, or just feel like you're not.
like a little weird, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like between that and like the fucking fisheye lenses, like every time somebody looks at the camera, they put the fisheye lens on it, and then like Vicious's face looks all fucked up and weird because I think we're supposed to make
Which
him look
that
scary.
was something that the anime did a lot, though. Did the POV
That's a very
fisheye.
anime thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
You know how much Dragon
in
Ball
a
did that.
in a cartoon, it works a little better
Yeah.
because it's a cartoon, and we can draw your face like kind of morphed a little bit to make it like kind of make sense. Like it's I don't know, I hated it. It was too much, like, every time it was done, but, like, the Dutch angles drove me nuts. Another thing that drove me nuts about this episode, I apologize, I've sort of taken over your point here, but I gotta get this out because it's important. If dogs are so rare, no one's ever seen them, and they are all used as computers for some reason, and it's this big deal, and the taxes are so high on dogs, no non-rich person could ever own one. How the fuck are there CRT monitors everywhere and no one gives a shit? CRT monitors are everywhere in this episode, and those are hard to find now. Like those old like tube TV monitors are fucking
Yeah.
everywhere, and nobody gives a shit.
I mean that plays to a bigger problem in that this is
And
a
they have like reel to reel computers, and like that's fine. Like that's like a normal thing. Like nobody gives a shit. Like
this is a recreation of a vision of the future created in the 90s. So like the aesthetic of what the future is going to look like with a bunch of broken ass shit is inevitably like a bunch of old PCs. And that's the way that that's the way that like Watanabe like created his vision of the futures in 1998.
yeah,
And they
and in
just
the show it makes sense because
moved
you can just
that
tell me
over.
they exist, but like you can't move them over because you can't tell me all of the dogs are dead.
Well, then, I mean, it goes. If you're gonna
It's
nitpick that, then you have to nitpick like the amount of old technology that they just have in the show, like the giant
yeah.
fucking cell phones, the giant like everything is 90s future.
Yeah, that's just a stylistic choice that I'm
Not the
totally
style.
fine with. Because
That drove me nuts.
it would have felt weird to me if they had LCD screens. I would be like, that's not Bebop.
It
CRT
is
is Bebop.
And
just
and
one
I can
throwaway line. Oh
and I
man,
can give
these
you
old
that
monitors,
I
crazy.
don't think the aesthetic really worked in this version the same way it works in the anime. Like it's very awkward, and it often leaves you thinking like the VHS thing for Faye is especially jarring now because for the same fucking reason. It's like VHS are already like a relic in 2021.
But in the anime, they
Like
like acknowledge it. Like they have to like
they
track
did.
down.
Yeah,
They like literally dig through like the
it's
sewer to
like
find like
half. Yeah, it's
one.
like 80% of an episode is Jet and
Yeah.
Spike going to find a VCR.
I don't know. I hated this episode, and I watched it drunk, which is really like the best case scenario. And
Not a,
like,
it's not a great episode. I mean, I kind of want to talk about the Faye B plot more than I want to talk about the brain scratch shit because
Okay.
I feel like they totally
I mean,
butchered what was
I
cool about that.
I do have one note on the actual like a plot of this, and
Yeah.
it is like just another like I think this is the perfect microcosm of like we set a bunch of stakes and then immediately destroy them. Like it's like, oh, here's Julia, and Spike is gonna like try to get her to come with him, which like doesn't really make any sense because we've already like established her as like a shitty character. And but now Spike's like, come with me, and then
Remind me of the show
we just
Date.
kill her right away, and it's like, oh shit, that's a crazy thing that just happened, and it's like, oh, just kidding, none of that's real, and we're gonna do it 4 more times. We're just gonna keep watching and like work. Like, it's just, why
Did
is any of this happening? Like
you guys
what does
remember
this
like
serve to the audience other than like the shitty copy paste of this scene over and over again? We don't learn anything from it because none of it's real. Spike doesn't change as a character because of it. Like we just don't really get a lot, and like it doesn't make Vicious cool because Vicious isn't scary. Like I don't give a shit that Vicious is killing people or threatening to kill
Vicious isn't
people.
scary because the show has already successfully made him not scary. If
Yeah.
Vicious was only the Vicious in this episode, he'd be a lot closer to the anime Vicious.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing.
He
If
has
he
a
had,
single line in this episode. He's just killing
yeah, if
Julia
you
over
just
and over again.
if he wasn't doing dumb bullshit and it was just like him being like, "Hey, I'm here, motherfucker," and like just like killing Julia, and then that gives you something, right? Because then it's like, oh right, this threat exists. Spike is aware that threat exists, and it's like in his head to a point where like he can't get it out. We're gonna have to deal with this threat later. But I have been watching Vicious be like a whiny little bitch
Yeah.
for however many episodes. It's like I don't care. It's like, oh, you're not actually this scary. Like you're just a fucking nerd with like a fucking otaku sword. Like he's gonna bust out his fucking Beyblade shit. Like fuck him. Like I don't care.
He
And
does
like
seem like he just has that sword to be cool. Like he's not
yeah.
he's just like, hey guys, I got
Yeah.
a sword.
Yeah, like he's he's the kind of trench coat who like comes to school after getting bullied with his fucking katana that he bought on eBay to like
Trust
scare
me,
people.
Dad is the leader of the syndicate. I'll kill you
Yeah.
with my sword.
I run a gang with my friends. Yeah, no, it's fucking like, and honestly, if Total Recall does something better than you outside of having 3 boobs, just don't do it. Just give up on it. Just let it go entirely. It's just anyway.
Did
Sorry,
you
we
guys
can talk about the B plot
remember
now. I hate it.
a show from the early 2000s on ABC called Daybreak? It was a Tay Diggs
Oh
show
yeah,
that it was
I remember
basically
that.
Groundhog's Day, and he just kept reliving, and like he was just always trying to save his girlfriend. Like that's what this episode reminded me of, because I actually loved that show. I think it was like way, way too good for like the circumstances it came out under, but like this felt like the exact same plot, and I'm sure they've never seen that show, so they don't really know what they were doing, but it was a
Yeah.
total ripoff.
I mean, if we want to do the Groundhog's Day thing, where Bill Miller keeps trying to save the homeless guy, and no matter what he does, the homeless guy always dies at the end, and like that's this episode, him trying to save Julia as like a you can't escape your past, you've doomed this woman kind of thing. Like that's a great theme. I can get behind
What it
that.
was
Like
kind of, except it wasn't, because it was more about the AI trying to get him to relinquish the thing that mattered so it could take over his brain, which was the
yeah,
original Brain Scratch story was so much cooler than this. Like there was like a whole cult around it, which they kind of implied at the beginning, but then it immediately falls apart because you get no development there.
Right.
And
yeah.
then it all was like some sad kid in a coma that was trying to like create, and he did it on accident, which is still kind it was much better. This
Yeah.
was not
Much better than just an AI, just an
that,
unthinking AI that was
which is
just
so
killing
cliche.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. But lesbian Faye, how do we feel about it?
My beef was not with Faye being a lesbian. My beef was with Faye getting hit on and like being super weird about it. Like we spend all this time trying to like make Faye this like very like aggressive outward person who like calls everyone dickwads and motherfuckers. And then as soon as somebody's like, "Hey, you're cute," she's just
Well,
like,
this speaks to what I think the show, like this version of Faye, I think works. I think this episode Faye, I actually kind of liked Faye in this episode. And I don't like her in most of the other episodes. But I think when they're just accepting that they're going to create a totally different character that just has basically the same backstory but a very different personality, I think a totally alternate version of Faye can potentially work. And I liked I kind of liked her thing with the mechanic. I thought it was decent.
I think I would have liked if this episode were earlier, but like it just
Yeah.
really gets in the way of who she's been the entire series. And it's like, oh, we've just thrown away everything.
You see, I think she snaps back and forth. I think she has these moments where she just seems like an awkward nerd who just like gets thrown into this shit, and she's trying to like, but then when she's supposed to be the badass femme fatale, I don't think she plays that well at all. I think
Well,
that is just always cringe. But
it's a
like when she,
yeah.
This is when I
As a-
do start to like come back around to liking Faye too, because like we were talking about like in the Callisto Soul episode, like I didn't like her in that episode, and it's exactly like you were saying when they were just like, okay, this is just it's a different Faye, and it's like once you kind of accept that, and I kind of start to like her again
yeah,
but
for very
like
different reasons than I
like
like the original Faye.
that's my beef with it though. I agree. If this was a standalone thing, I
build
think Faye
Faye around
works.
the actress's strengths. Don't try to fit this actress into what they think Faye should be.
Right.
But it's still not the Faye we've seen the last all the other episodes. And like I don't know, to me it feels like it speaks to like a bunch of dudes who couldn't figure out how to write a competent woman. So like you get this swing between like she
Which
just
is
yells at
ironic.
everybody
The
and
show
then
is
turns in.
supposed to be like fixing the poorly written female characters in Cowboy Bebop.
But that's the thing. Like it, they're like, oh, she's like a confident like badass, so she's gonna yell at everybody and like not take anybody's shit. But then also, we want her to fuck a lady, and then she's gonna be like a total pushover. And it's like I really feel like if we just written her as a person,
Totally inaccurate though. I mean, I do know some girls who are into girls, and they're a lot tougher when they're not around girls that they think are cute. They just basically turn into dumb dudes when they
yeah,
around a cute girl. And that's what happened with Faye here. She's just like, "Oh, you're pretty."
yeah,
And didn't know because she's not a very socialized person. So it's not that hard to believe that she wouldn't really know how to deal with this situation. And I think it's something that was showed an interesting amount of like foresight on these writers' part because they recognize that while Faye works as a character in the anime, I don't think you can just throw a hot girl onto this spaceship and with like no sexual tension at all and have it work in a like an anime western, not anime, like on a Netflix like western series, because that like in an anime you can, everybody's hot, everybody's fuckable, and everybody's asexual. That's just kind of like how animes are. But like
yeah.
it
If
would
I
be
had more
weird.
faith in the writers, I would believe that all of that was on purpose.
I think it was. I give them a little bit of credit for knowing what they were doing here because like this whole throwing Faye in this bottle episode after bottle episode with these two men and having no sexual tension, the anime pulls that off because that's just kind of what you expect from an anime. But like it would be very very hard to do here unless they had written into the plot some kind of reasons why there's not going to be really any chemistry between these characters.
Yeah, I honestly could see a bunch of like Netflix execs being like, so like, how do these three people hook up?
So yeah,
And
who's
then like somebody has to
Yeah.
be like, they don't, they never do. And they're like, whoa, hold on,
yeah.
somebody's gotta fuck.
Exactly. And I know some that happened in some kind of that happened in the writers' room, and then someone in the writers' room was like, no, that's not what these characters are. Spike and Faye are never gonna hook up. And they're like, well, why not? And they're like, well, maybe Faye's a lesbian. How about that? And they're like, yeah, that's great. And then so they went down that path.
I
And
just
it's like,
imagine all of the writers throwing their pens in there. Yes, fan service.
And
anyway,
I do like her. This is really the first time you see that like she has lost her memory so much, and she doesn't even know that she's gay. If she doesn't know she's the orgasm
right.
chat was a bit
Yeah,
cringe, but like
it was on the nose.
right, but like she doesn't know if she'd ever had an orgasm. Like she doesn't
Yeah.
know anything. This is the first time I feel like they really delved into she doesn't know anything about herself.
It'd be the first
Yeah.
time Faye's hooked up with a girl.
It,
Well,
it,
I
it could
mean,
be. I mean, you don't know. She doesn't know.
yeah, yeah, she doesn't know. I mean, and the female orgasm is a myth anyway. So like,
I've
it's
never seen it.
oh yeah, you can cut that. It's all right.
Nope, that's staying in.
That's
Give me the name of the episode. Female orgasm myth. I've never seen it.
It's my face.
Uh,
Okay. At least 8 women all went, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know why.
do we want to move? Should this be the transition into the Big Faye episode?
I'm
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
talk about. I'm very curious. I have strong opinions on this episode, but I'm curious what you guys feel about it.
I think this is another one that, in a way, kind of worked. I don't hate the idea of turning Whitney into like a mother figure because it plays into this version of Faye that like her issues. She's kind of got mommy issues,
Yeah.
and it also collapses what I think is, I know you guys talked about how it makes sense that they spent an entire episode looking for a VHS player. I hate that episode. I think it's the one episode of the anime that I always skip because it is so drawn out and long for this one little payoff at the last like minute of the episode. They just took that end and they put it into the other Faye episode that's actually really good, and they just kind of brought it all together. I also think the weird Russian dude is kind of funny. Like this episode I didn't hate. It's not great. Nothing in this show is great, but I didn't hate this episode. What's your thoughts, Danny?
So, actually, I don't know, Jason. Do you have? I don't want to like. I'm
I
very
do
curious.
have, I think, probably more opinions about this episode than any of the others. So like,
Okay.
I didn't hate turning Whitney into a mother figure. I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
Again, poor
The
execution.
execution, yeah, it's not great.
Poor execution.
Good
Sure, the
idea,
Russian
but
guy was kind of funny, and I think isn't this the episode where Jet is the with his daughter's recital and everything, and like he's
Oh,
good shit.
dancing and like there's that whole fight going on. That
Good
I thought that was like I thought that was funny, and that kind of felt like Bebop humor to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
You got
I like that part of it.
zooming out. The fight choreography in that scene wasn't terrible
Right?
because
Yeah, yeah,
it was doing what it intended to do, and it was just this goofy, like slapsticky fight happening.
yeah,
Which,
Well, there's
like,
less cuts, right? Because like, we're focused on Jet, and we're watching an
yeah,
actual fight happen. Like John
yeah.
Turner knows how to do the kung fu choreography. He's done that kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
it's accidentally their best fight in probably the entire show is the one
Yeah,
in the background where it's just Spike getting mugged while
yeah,
Jet's dancing to his daughter's recital.
yeah. Um, but I didn't like how the whole thing was this sexual fantasy like role playing thing. I thought
That
that
was
was
really
dumb as
stupid.
hell.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And kind of what I was going back to like the Jet thing, how his thing is very similar and Faye's thing is very different. With Whitney in the original one, you were kind of along for this ride. Like you liked Whitney and you were charmed by him and you were kind of falling in love with him as Faye was. You don't get that like there's no, sort
Yeah,
of big reveal.
they
You
explain.
know up front that Faye's mother's a piece of shit. And I feel like you lose development of Faye and learning why she is the way she is. And I guess yes, it is a different Faye. So like,
They trade
but
development because you have moments of relating to her when she's watching her mom just like hit it off with Spike and Jet, and you're just thinking, and like Faye's just watching that, like, oh my God, please don't like this woman.
yeah,
She's awful. And you kind of like sympathize with her there. But I do feel like this episode felt very sitcom-y to me. Like it felt
it
like an
did.
episode of a sitcom.
Yeah,
it's I
And I
don't.
think that's partially because of the way Faye's acting style is. I feel like she I don't know. I feel like she brings a sitcom style of acting to this show.
Well,
yeah,
she always gives you like a weird sort of like annoyed look. Like it's always like,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, but like so.
One more thing, I do like
Do it.
that's how she got her ship though. I thought that was kind of a cool twist, like because
Yeah.
you don't know the history of that. It was like that's kind of a cool thing to throw in. She got her ship from her mother, whatever. I thought that was
From her, yeah.
interesting.
And her mother kind of taught her to be a con artist, which is still what kind of Whitney did in a way, but it wasn't as
Right.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. I don't understand the decisions here because like, okay, why have her show up and be like, "Oh, this is my con artist person who woke me up, who pretends to be my mother," and then they're like, "Well, how do we like force them to still have?" Like, it really feels like somebody wrote this episode correctly, and then some exec stepped in and was like, "No one's gonna get it. You
Telling
have
you,
to, you have to tell them up front what's happening." So they were like, "Fucking okay. So how do we keep our script, but tell everyone what's happening?" Because like, what you should do, aspiring writers out there, I'm not a writer myself, but I'm going to tell you how to do this. Is you don't do that. You have the mom show up, and you have like maybe like and you do like the no, like I'm your mom. I'm the reason that you were woken up. I'm here to do whatever. Connect to you. Who gives a shit? Doesn't really matter why. You have the entire episode as planned, and then at the end, instead of it be like this weird safe word sex joke bullshit thing, you just have it be revealed that she's a con woman, not your mom. We feel emotions, and then
that
you
would have
get
been
the
much
ship.
better.
And then like maybe you steal the ship. Maybe the ship's hers, and then you're like, "You bitch, you fucked me over." Yada yada yada. We have like a fun climactic fight, and then you steal the ship and fly off in it, and that's how we get the ship.
Yeah.
Instead, what we did
And like
was tell
maroon
us
her on
literally,
whatever island she's on or whatever planet
yeah.
she's on. Yeah.
Instead, what we did was tell us straight up, this woman's a bad guy. And then it's like, okay, fine, but we're gonna pretend that she's her mom because we have to. Okay, dumb, fine. Then we're gonna immediately be like, oh, this Russian guy's also her husband. Which again, dumb. Why are we revealing this right away? This doesn't make any sense. And then we're gonna do this whole fucking episode, and we build up all of these stakes, and then like literally they just didn't know how to end it, and they were like, safe word. Everything that just happened, none of it matters. This whole thing
I
was a ruse.
I
Uh
100% agree with that.
and we're just done here. I was so mad. I like literally like almost threw my phone. I was so pissed off. Like I was like taking notes, and I was just like, this whole thing was a waste of 40 minutes. Why did you fucking do this to
Yeah.
me? And then it's just like, oh look, the ship is there. Fan service.
And
Like,
they had this dumb line like, if you believe the fantasy enough, it becomes real, or whatever fucking bullshit that was. I was like, no, that's stupid.
no, like it's definitely. It really feels like somebody wrote this correctly, and then somebody came in and fucked it all up. And they were like, we have to like her ship hasn't shown up yet. We have to make that happen. We have to somehow make sense of this. Like it's just so bad.
my
Like
my consistent takeaway from so much of this is a good idea, just dog shit execution.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these things on paper probably should have worked had I don't know. I don't know at what point in the creative process this all just went off. Maybe it was written poorly from the beginning and we're giving them way too much
much credit.
credit. But
But, like,
like
imagine if at the start of this episode, we're in the outside like shot, right? And we see the red tail come down. And we're like, oh shit, that's Faye shit. That's finally it's here. And then it opens, and instead of Faye stepping out, it's Whitney. And then we're like, who is this person? Right? Like, ooh, now we're interested. And then just like, hey Faye, I'm your mom. And then boom, cut to the opening credits,
That'd have
come
been
back
cool.
in.
That'd have been
That
cool.
And then it's like they're all in the bebop, and like Spike's kind of hitting on her mom, but like she's like freaking out. She's like, this is my fucking mom. Like, is she my like? I don't know who to trust anymore. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, you can
Like,
still kind of have Faye's trust issues play out there because this mom who she didn't know came back. Yeah.
yeah. And then like you still do the whole arms dealer thing, and it can still even be your husband. Like, you can do all that. You just reveal like. Then at the end, you just go like,
The,
well,
the
he is
only
my
reason
husband anyway. And then you're like, wait, your husband? But I thought so. You're my dad, and he's like, no, I'm not your dad. I don't fucking know who you are. You're
it
not your
would
dad. And then it's like,
require
wait, oh, everything clicks together. Maybe a couple of weird flashbacks to like hints we had in the script before, you know. Like, oh, you did say that weird thing that didn't really make sense, but I skipped over because it was like a one-line thing that was 50 minutes ago. And then it all clicks, and you get like the zoom out on her face, and then we see her face go like, and then she gets it, and then boom, climactic thing, fucking guns, bullshit, box explode everywhere, and then she steals the ship, and that's how we get the ship. Awesome.
you
Why
would
didn't we
need
just do
to
that?
like you would need to restructure Faye's entire story through the entire series though to make that the entire show though because like all the way back to the Tree People episode, she's hunting for her mom. This like character. So you're not wrong. I think that your approach on
But
the
you can
story
keep
is
that. You can
better.
just be like, I'm your actual mom. The person
But
you've been hunting for as your mom is actually an imposter.
all right,
Who is this
yeah.
guy? Like literally, you just be just on a different person.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just changed everything, and it would have been better. I mean, there's nothing here that's not worth changing.
I mean, if we're gonna get a title of this thing, they could have changed everything and it would have been better. Really is the main takeaway.
Um, yeah, I
Or
don't
you just
know.
make this episode earlier, and then you can still keep all that shit. And
But
then
we're saying
and
that
she's still
about a
hunting
lot,
for her
though.
mom. You
We're
know,
saying that about make this episode earlier, make this episode earlier. At some point, we need some late season content here because
but like that's how. And part of it might be because we've seen the original multiple
yeah.
times, is because that's how the original works. It's a bunch of like not really connected episodes up front.
And I do admire and I do respect their effort to create like a cohesive strain that connects a lot of these episodes. Like they made a lot of this what's and we'll get into this way more with the next episode.
Right, yeah.
Um, uh these stories that typically feel like one-off out of nowhere, this weird. I mean, do you want to just jump to
Yeah, I think
Saturday?
I'm ready for the next episode, yeah.
Yeah. So they do it out of the gate. It's unfortunately this is all through the filter of Vicious sucks. So whenever Vicious is involved, like it's less good than it would be if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
But the instinct again to make Piero LeFaux like a syndicate assassin that is sent specifically to kill Spike is more cohesive to the larger narrative.
Yeah.
And these writers seem to put way more effort into creating a cohesive, larger narrative rather than trying to do these one-off episodes the way that the anime did. And I kind of like that, especially for like a Western style of series. It works better.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
if these were-
just in like the first like scene, the first like 2 minutes of this episode. At least I think that's when it was. Like the way they threw in like Piero and like the dogs and like Curious Medical and the Syndicate and like they just immediately tied all of these things together from the show. I thought that was great. I thought that was
They do
brilliant.
a lore dump, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is all like super connected, and
Right.
I think that was kind of cool.
Right.
Overall, this episode isn't bad. The guy, I think the guy that plays Pierre LaFaux is really actually puts it all into it, and I kind of
Right.
respect it.
And I'm not sure if the guy's just a fantastic actor, but like the laugh sounds exactly like the TV show. I haven't like gone back and like compared them side by side, but like at least in my mind, like the way he laughed was exactly like the Piero in the original anime laughed, and it just like that was
The
fantastic.
the only thing we didn't get was the silhouette of him floating and like kicking Spike.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, they
It's in
still
there.
had a silhouette,
It's in
but
there.
it wasn't
He does the
exactly
flip.
like that.
He does the flip. He does a flip.
Oh shit!
He
Yeah.
definitely does. He definitely does because I saw that and I was like,
Right.
that looks so
All
silly.
Yeah.
when he's just like smacking Spike around because he
Yeah.
flips around and kicks him back.
Yeah.
Pierre LaFou was a really big Marvel vs. Capcom fan, and he found the Air Infinite, and he was just getting Quarter Circle B, baby. I'm gonna be honest. I originally, and I changed my mind on this. I originally was not happy about adding a bunch of lore to LeFou, only because I was like, the whole point is that it didn't matter. But in retrospect, I was like, no, like that's the right call. I do
Yeah.
think that Vicious continues to be the least intimidating try-hard weeb.
Yeah.
This is awful.
Like that whole upfront thing, like, oh, this was a really good idea. That yeah, again, you have this execution is trash. Like having him send LeFou out, dig it. Trying to better explain why he hates, in this case, dogs, but because just like having like a cat in the window, and I get like the cat in the window has like two colored eyes, and Spike's
Yeah.
supposed to have eyes that are different colors, which doesn't.
Yeah.
In the show, they say he does, but in the actual like animation and
I don't even
Right.
think they
There's
bring
like
up the one that eyes is fake. I think they just kind of drop that whole.
yeah.
which is
'Cause because the
fine.
one eye sees the past and one eye
Yeah.
sees the present.
Yeah, but like since we've really dropped the whole like past v present theme,
Yeah.
which is the entire sort of theme of the original, and we don't care about the original. But yeah, God, Vicious sucks.
You
Vicious
just
sucks
got
so
to keep
bad.
in mind that like because something works for an anime doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for a live action
Yeah,
adaptation.
but you can. The theme of like bounty hunters trying to like live in the present while also like
Yeah, no, that I
escaping their
agree with
past
you.
isn't
That
hard to do.
getting
Like
rid of
there's
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why they dropped that thematic like underpinning, but the stuff like Pierre Lofu coming out of absolutely nowhere in the anime, you just kind of accept it because that's just what the whole show has been. It's just been like
yeah.
villains
Yeah.
coming out of nowhere, and you got to deal with them.
And he was
Um,
almost scarier because of that.
he was scarier because of that. I agree with that. I also think that like when you're translating something into a a Netflix series, you want there to be some cohesive,
Yeah.
some continuity that just
Well,
doesn't matter
and
as
it's
much to
40
anime.
minutes. Like because the
Yeah,
animated shows it's only 20 minutes, and like 15 of that is fights.
it's just a fight scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you can't do 30 minutes. Like it's like after a while you just get fatigued.
which it was fun to hear because the his origin story in the original was inspired by the Pink Floyd song "On the Run." And that's why you hear the like,
Yeah.
and it's fun to get a version of that
Yeah.
in this too. They kind of kept that.
Yeah, and he can show movies through Ein. So if you want to have like
Which
a
I
barbecue,
hated that
Oh
shit.
god.
That was
Yeah.
so stupid. That was the one thing.
Uh
I'm just like, okay, so is it a data dog? I guess it is because you can apparently hack the fucking thing.
yeah.
no. His memories were downloaded into Ein, and that's why he has a connection to show his face.
What 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 computer mechanism
Exactly.
exists behind?
What?
They show these dogs with like these like shitty hoses like on their heads, and they're like, "Oh, we downloaded his memories into these dogs because he's crazy now." And I guess one of them happens to be Ein, and Ein happened to be on this
Oh,
spaceship where we
I
were.
missed that.
It's super just like hyper coincidental, and it's just so incredibly annoying because if you had this guy who could just like see and project into the Bebop where like Spike is. He's honestly like way more useful not as an assassin, like, and more just like I'm monitoring. Like, hey, can you just show me what
Well,
Spike's do?
also,
Like look through this dog.
why would you download the mind of a crazy man into a dog?
Yeah, they were like trying like they were like trying to like say they were like we're gonna download all of his memories into these dogs because he's like crazy because he's gonna go crazy or he is crazy and we're trying to like
He was too valuable as his
salvage.
subject or
I don't
something.
who knows.
No.
No, they downloaded into the dogs because the
Okay.
writers were like, we need to find a way to invite Spike to Earthland.
Well, and it's
And the way
the
we do
writer,
that,
it's their admirable instinct to tie everything together, even though once again in execution it all kind of falls apart because like
doesn't make any
it
sense.
doesn't make any sense, and they didn't put the kind of effort you should have put into it to actually make it not just coherent but also cohesive. I don't know, or maybe the other way around.
Like, there's just so many other like established ways of communication that this guy could have used, but instead it was like, oh well, like, what if his memories were in
That
the dog?
Faye's fucking line is like, he can do projectors through the eyes. I was just like, shut up. Somebody, I don't know. That was when she was the most annoying to me.
Yeah, I will say, Jet's rhyming plan was fucking great. I loved that.
I
His
kind of
what?
did.
That felt
The
very Jet
rhyming,
to me.
when
When
everyone had to rhyme to explain the plan.
No.
only because like they did it, and I was like, this is funny. And then at the end, it was implied that like they had been doing this for like hours, and he just kept making them do it over and over again. And I was like, that makes this so much funnier.
That was a
That
case where the show had just beaten me down so much at that point that I was like, "Fuck it, this is not the dumbest thing that's happened. I'm on board with this because it's at least kind of funny."
I don't know. It felt very Jet to me. Like I'm like I could definitely see Jet being like, oh, I
Yeah,
saw somewhere that like rhyming makes you remember stuff.
that's
Yeah.
So
true.
now I'm gonna like make a nursery rhyme so that we can fight this guy. Like that made sense.
Yeah. And he burned the ship every time. Or what he burned whatever it was.
He
Like
lights the
every
match every
time.
single time.
Like, we're not gonna fake this. We're actually gonna burn it every time we do this, for hours on end. And then of course, which was very Spike. Spike just went off and did his own fucking thing anyways.
Yeah, but it does make more sense that they would do that though, because like in the anime, he just goes and fights him by himself, and it like, doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense that you would, because like this guy beat you bad in a fight, and that does not happen. Like,
Yeah.
it was a good episode. I think it went pretty
Yeah.
of the
And
things.
okay, so there's a lot of like vicious plot points that we have kind of missed over
Oh,
because there are like a lot of
It's
They don't matter.
okay, but there are a few things I want to say though.
all right. Let's go.
Okay,
Go for it. Go for it.
I do like Mao Yenrai. I'm glad that they like made him her whatever you want to say. They gave her more of a backstory and brought like I thought she was an interesting character. The guy who eats balls, fucking stupid. That
Oh,
should have
yeah.
never ever been in there. That should have never even
Forgot
been
about that.
suggested in the
Right.
writers' room. That was dumb as hell. But I liked Mao. I like Mao. And then
Mao,
it-
remind me what Mao did in the live action. Mao was just the one that Vicious kills in Ballad of the Fallen Angels, right?
right, yeah. Like that's all he is. He's just a singular plot point, and he's just a means to give Vicious kind of context? Context? I don't know. I can't think of that word. But yeah. So Mao was it was like Mao, Vicious, and then the ball eating guy who were like the three who were gonna
Oh, that's right.
work
Yeah.
together to take over the
She
syndicate.
like conspires with Julia, right? And Julia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I did have
but it
one
was
final
in
thing.
this one that that they do like execute that plan. So Vicious goes in with the face changer and kills the ball eating guy, and then Mao ends up dying, but Vicious still kills like the three elders.
Does Vicious kill his dad in this one too?
Yes.
Yeah. It's where, yeah, because
Yeah, like the three of them come together and kill the elders.
So that guy just plays like a bad father and everything.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, that's what he does in Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings and in Fringe, he's like the fucking.
oh shit, that's who that guy is. I recognized him. I couldn't figure what it is. Okay, that makes sense.
He's good at it. I'll give him that.
He's good. He's a good actor. He's
Yeah.
probably underutilized here, to be honest. But
Yeah.
We definitely will plant the seeds to the whole like sometimes it's just a projector and not an actual person in the room, which I appreciate because it does set
yeah,
that moment up. Unfortunately, because it's so common, it does get frustrating when people fall for it.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it enough times to be like, that might not be a real person. If you live in this universe, you should just always assume everyone's a projector.
exactly. And then it runs into the like, why wouldn't you be doing this more often if this is
Right.
something that's so
Why go
easy and so
anywhere?
effective?
Just Ready
Like,
Player One
why
that
would you
shit and
ever
never
put
leave your
yourself
house.
into a dangerous situation?
Yeah. And that's also one of those technologies you just kind of have to accept works because when you think
Yeah.
about it for 2 seconds, like that doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so they're there in the room, but they're also where they are, but they can see both. But like, how do they? And it doesn't make any sense. But like, I'm fine with just like it just works. Don't question it. Don't think about it too
Technology we
much.
don't understand. It's too far advanced. We've
Right?
still
Yeah.
got
Sure.
fucking 90s monitors, but we can
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
holograms into rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Um,
Yet again, another actor had to read on a script, "You don't know true power until you've eaten another man's balls," and then had
yeah,
to say that in all serious into a microphone.
that character was great.
And
Oh
yikes. And
God.
then they showed the fucking bowl of
The
testicles, and
bowl
he
of
was just
balls.
like,
Yeah.
just nomming out of like it was nothing. Not even
I
like a
just,
delicacy. They're like fucking mini weenies in a crock pot. Like, you didn't give
Yeah.
a shit. Like, you're gonna
I.
fondue those
it's
things
I've.
so
later.
weird because that's something that like I would hate for somebody to watch this having not seen the original.
Yeah.
Think, well, that's so weird. That must have been from the anime. No, this is something that they decided to insert into the story.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're
Because,
gonna watch the anime and be like, "Where's the ball eating guy?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
my favorite
so the
part. I
ball
need.
eating
Where's the
guy's not in this.
I'm
It's
on
it's
episode 6 and no one has eaten any balls.
it's one of those things you joke about, but you never actually do. And they were just like, you know what, this show's dumb. We're just gonna put it in here anyways because we don't like it. So
I would
we're
like
just
Vicious
gonna
1000% more if that was one of his lines. Like when he's watching him literally just like fondue pot a bunch of fucking testicles. He's like, this is something we joke about. You're not actually supposed to do that.
yeah,
And then we just cut to another scene. Like we don't
yeah.
just cut to something else.
Oh my god.
So bad. And yet again, that plan, the rhyming plan is a lot of screen time. It's a huge setup. We do none of it.
No.
It's there for
I mean,
nothing.
that's just the golden rule of filmmaking. If you're seeing a plan being articulated, it's not going to go that way.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, it didn't go wrong. It didn't
You
happen.
just didn't do it at all because it's
That's
Spike. That's
it's like
not.
I
That's
disagree. I disagree. If fuck Spike, you've changed enough on this fucking show. If you're gonna make me watch 5 minutes of this like rhyming bit and do all these things, I need to see this plan start, go wrong, because like obviously,
yeah.
like Faye's gonna come in and like get shot down, or like this guy's gonna be struggling, whatever. And then like the play goes wrong, and then Spike has to one-handedly fight the dude and win or whatever. But literally, we have this all this build up for this plan that like, we don't even do. Like we don't even attempt.
I don't know. I feel like that was one of the most Spike moments.
I think so too. I think
Yeah.
Spike would. I think Spike that whole time was thinking like this is stupid, and then as soon as he had the freedom to, he was like, I'm not doing this stupid fucking plan.
Yeah.
That's so Spike though, right?
Right.
If you're gonna do that, then it needs to be we rhyme the plan once, and then Spike just goes, "I'm not. I'm just gonna go," and then he leaves.
But he
Like,
needed
don't.
but the way Spike operates, he needed
Jet
them
would
to
have
think
never.
that he was in.
Yeah, Jet would have never let him leave the room had he said up front, "I'm not doing this."
Yeah.
Like, it, I I don't have really an issue with that as much, but
I don't know. If it was the only time it happened in the series, I think it would bother me less.
yeah,
But like
I
every single episode sets up a bunch of stakes that they're just like, not that we're not. That's just gone. That was just there because it needs to be 40 minutes long.
all right. Next episode is Blue Crow Waltz. I hated this episode so fucking much.
Yeah.
This is the episode that I felt like I didn't realize how much I had grown to like Jet and Faye until I was forced to just deal with only Vicious, Julia, and Spike for an entire episode. And I thought, holy shit, these characters are awful. Like, I don't like them at all. I don't give a shit about this backstory. I just want this over with.
And this is something that the original show did so well. It told you their backstory with just like snippets and like a
It was
lot of it you just kind of figured out. Yeah, it was just highlights. Like you figured
you
out a
look
lot of it just
forward
by
to these
yourself.
moments in the
It
original show.
what?
You looked forward to these moments in the original show when you got a
Yeah,
little bit of a glimpse of Spike's past.
yeah.
But in this, it's just like, oh my
They just
God, I
they
don't
just
like this at all.
spell it out, and it's part of what made the original so good is you figured it out yourself, and like you just filled in the gaps for yourself, and that was kind of just good enough.
Mm.
I
It
don't know.
was
I kind of like this episode.
You liked
really.
this episode? I just thought it
Here's the
was
thing.
so obvious. Like everything that happened was just cliche mobster. Vicious is the loose cannon. Spike is his
Yeah,
like,
So
good partner. Julia falls in love with the crazy guy first because he's the more aggressive one. Then she realizes, oh, I should have gone with this guy, but that point's too late. She's in over her head. Stupid
yeah,
woman.
but
Like,
at this point, every episode has the same like bullshit in it, right? Like it's a bunch of fisheye lenses of Vicious trying to be scary and not being. It's a bunch of like contrived plot and nonsense. Like, did we know Julia could sing before we put her on stage? Like,
yes,
did
I
we?
that
I
comes
think I
up in like
probably
episode 2
could
if
if
No.
she's
I
a
We the
singer.
audience. We no, we the audience know that. But this is a flashback episode.
oh, like did the characters know she
Like
could
the
sing?
singer gets sick and Anna's like, "Hey, Toots, get on
That
up
that
there."
also is such a cliche though.
Yeah,
Like
It
every
is,
single
but
thing
like
about it is
usually you at least have like an elf where like we hear Zoe Deschanel singing like in the shower.
like
Like
the discovery or
yeah,
something.
like you have to be discovered in some way. It's not
Well,
like
I
you're
think
a
Gren
lady
might
in
have
a
known.
nightclub, go on and sing.
yeah. I
Sounds
do
like
want to
Gren
say
sort of was like, yeah, you should put her on. Didn't Gren kind of like make that happen?
I think so, and like they do establish Grin like as that character. He's the one who like trains the new girls and I think auditions them and stuff. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. Like it's one of those things that you can just assume that someone knew she could sing. I don't think they need to say, hey, this girl can sing. And
We have told you everything. Like everything is beaten over the head with, and like this is like the one thing like, oh, the audience will figure it out. I mean, I know it's nitpicky. I don't know. I didn't hate the episode only because all of the things that are bad about it have been bad in like the other 8 episodes,
Yeah,
and we
but
at least got to see Spike do cool stuff.
you didn't get any break from it in this episode though. In the other episodes, like you have the Vicious and Julia scenes, and then you get back to like Spike and Jet and Faye, which for better or for worse has a redeeming entertainment to it. It was kind of fun to watch these characters interact, and you just get nothing in this episode that gets you through these horrible Vicious scenes.
Oh, you didn't love Vicious talking about how he takes care of his pubic hair? They didn't
Oh
do it
my
for you?
God,
Didn't
no!
enjoy that?
And
Him suggesting that Spike should braid his
or
pubic hair.
him, or
You
like
felt that was
Julia falls in love with him because he speaks a line of Russian to her. Like how much respect? Like I can't even like Julia at all after like that episode because you realize how shallow it was that she got seduced by
oh, and
Vicious.
Julia is never likable.
No, she's
no,
not at all.
Never
never.
likable.
But after
Like
this episode, it was like I can never like this character. She's the worst. She's like Vicious. At least it's not his fault that he's a fucking moron. Like Julia, it's like you're just a terrible person who like kind of I don't know.
And she's like this whole time this damsel in distress, which
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
you don't
When
feel bad for her because she sucks.
yeah,
Like just kind of like just kill her so we can move on to another plot.
yeah,
yeah. I mean yeah.
And I did like the fucking Spike killing everybody at the end, but I think
that was
that
pretty
could
sick.
have been
Again,
better.
okay, that was another good fight scene. The very, very few that there
Yeah,
were, I think maybe that was the second one out of
that one
two.
was all right. Yeah,
When he
that
went
one
in
was.
there and just murdered fucking everybody, that was pretty
I
dope.
think we could have gotten more buildup for the Neptune Syndicate to see that there are little because I like all we ever saw from the Neptune guys is them getting their asses kicked anyways. We never
Yeah,
had a reason to fear them. So when Spike goes in there and kills them all, it's like, well, yeah, these guys seem like a bunch of bitches because like the whole problem was that Vicious was killing too many of these guys and they were
yeah,
like to like and the Syndicate was like, "Oh, can't piss off the Neptune people." I'm like, "Why? They
Yeah.
seem pretty easy to kill." And
Yeah, why not just kill them and take over their operation?
and Spike did it by himself.
Bye. Yeah.
So while that scene was cool in its execution, the build up to it,
It's
I
the
just,
one
Yeah.
time we swap, right? The
Yeah.
one swap.
You can have one or the other, but you can never have
Yeah.
both.
No, I'm thoroughly convinced that like there's gonna be an interview with like a director or producer on this show where they were like, "Oh, we had this awesome idea of using this one specific lens every time we look at Vicious, and that's how you know he's crazy." And I'm gonna want to punch them and then eat their balls. I'm gonna just make a crock pot of that guy's testicles, because it's awful. Like it's fun once or twice, but and like yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a Vicious heavy episode, and there's just so much like sideways, bulged out camera views of Vicious doing like normal shit too. Like it's just him being like, "I would like a drink." Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
if we had almost no Vicious up until this point, I would say this episode is justified. But we've had way too much Vicious throughout this entire damn show.
And
That
way
now
too
we're
much
stuck with
Julia.
an entire episode of Vicious and Julia and a little bit of Spike. Like, come on, this we
Well,
don't we deserve better than this.
and the thing is, I feel like if Vicious had been like closer to like anime Vicious previously, and then we have this flashback where like he's kind of like a whiny little bitch, and then gets like he feels screwed, and that's what turns him into like
It still
this
works.
silent murderer.
Yeah.
Then you're kind of cool. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Like this guy kind of like grew up. That's like a fun lore. Like it's fun
Yeah.
lore if it stays that way.
I can forgive
Like,
Vicious's backstory if I wasn't just constantly forced to exist with it for most of
and
the show.
Yeah.
if his backstory was a backstory and wasn't just who he is as a fucking character.
Yeah.
Like let him be a badass and then be like, oh no, this guy was like a fucking nerdy goober who got bullied by everybody.
He just had
And then
emotional
and then
problems.
eventually was just like, fuck it. Like
Yeah.
I kill people and do what I want. No one tells me what to do anymore. And that's why
Cold
he's this
killer.
unhinged guy who wants to take over.
Mhm.
That's cool. Instead, you're just like, oh, you've always just been this weird, whiny, inefficient bitch. And one thing we skipped over, I forget which episode it was in, but it was definitely before this one. The red eye scene
Oh, yeah.
where everybody's just like naked with like their eyes sewn shut.
Oh yeah, like when
What
they're
the
making
fuck?
it.
Why? That's
Oh, and then they
supposed to
just
make him look like a badass, and it just literally just looked like where did this come from?
Yeah,
Why is this even
it
here?
did seem very out of place.
Some coked out producer was like, "No, guys, I had this idea last night."
It's funny because because of that scene, the entire show has to have like a nudity content tag. Because there's no
Yeah.
other actual nudity in that show except for the fucking naked drug makers.
Yeah.
That feels
Is
like
there-
such a
is-
some producer wouldn't let it go. Like they're like, we have to have this scene. Like it's the
Yeah.
giant spider, the
Maybe
thing
some
with like
strip club
Superman.
scene,
Like
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like we need this to make the show seem like legitimate. Like we have to
Yeah.
have boobs in there.
that was somebody with a bunch of money's idea, and they were like, "We're gonna pull funding."
Yeah. It's
If you
almost
don't
like
do
I
it.
heard this happens with real drug dealers, so we're gonna
I've
have to
seen
do
this in
this.
other drug movies. This was
Right.
an American gangster.
Yeah.
This scene is gonna make us popular. We're gonna talk about this scene. It's gonna go viral. Everybody's gonna love it. It's gonna be like a really cool thing. And everybody's
Yeah.
like, "This has nothing to do with what are you talking about?"
You
And
can
they were
tell
like,
they
"Well,
thought that about
I
a
gave
lot
you
of
$500 million. Fuck you." And they're like,
Yep.
"Okay, well, I guess we're doing it. Let's go get some extras."
How would you like to be that extra? That would have been
I know.
awful.
Yeah, fuck that.
Because
Extras ain't
like,
paying enough for that
That's
shit.
even
yeah,
a
it's supposed to be
step
like
down from being one of
embarrassing
those
for the
Game of Thrones
character.
girls.
Huh?
That's even a step down from being one of those Game of Thrones girls that's brought out as a whore to get like
Yeah.
murdered.
Right.
And it's like, hey, mom and dad, I finally made it onto an HBO show.
Yeah. God, those
It's
poor
even
actors.
worse.
Your first credit is just full. The problem is too, because if like one of those actors does become big, that's gonna be the thing that gets brought up in every late night interview. It's like
Yeah.
your first scene, you were like full frontal murdered, right? They're like, yeah, you can see my tits whenever you want. They're
Yeah.
on Cowboy Bebop, a show not known for that, but there it is. But I
I'm
digress.
thinking was there anything in this episode worth mentioning beyond the Spike scene at the
That
end?
I think that Spike fight is a direct reference to Old Boy. And
Yeah.
I think that is why it is good. Because it
The-
is not a ripoff of anything else. It was the
It's a
only shot that they were like, we will
Oh.
homage a different thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's where they could have done well with this show. They could have been like, we're gonna still do the like compilation, the like a bunch of
Update your
homages,
references,
but
man.
just do a different one. do new ones, do new music, do new like.
Well, even
the
I mean,
I feel like
references.
the Spike fight with Jet, that's a Jackie Chan bit. Like zooming out the camera, not cutting, and watching Jackie Chan just fight a bunch of dudes. That's a
Yeah.
hardcore Jackie Chan bit, and that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Yeah.
if they homage that on purpose or not. They should say they did. But yeah, like do that. Like obviously, there's a bunch of like Bruce Lee references. There's a bunch of like movie references.
Turn references and noir references that you can
The
just
entire
write
Yeah.
in
Pierre
there.
LeFou thing is based on like Pink Floyd song and like a French movie, like a bunch of weird shit, right? Just do that and just pick different shit. Like just be like, hey, instead of Casablanca, we're gonna take Some Like It Hot or whatever. Like, just pick a different old ass movie. After they did.
They did not.
They did other things. They should just pay us.
And then,
I legitimately think we could have been better writers for this show.
I'm
I
100%.
could have
Well,
storyboarded. I
I,
don't trust
I,
myself as a scriptwriter, but I will happily storyboard and like make Kevin do all the work.
I would
right,
have.
yeah. I
would have
know,
written better than these guys did.
I
right.
believe that. I
Yeah,
legitimately believe that.
yeah,
I'm
for
not
sure.
going to be too
Yeah,
bashful.
your uncle isn't on the board at Netflix, therefore you don't get to write for
Yep.
Cowboy Bebop. Yeah,
Sorry
I know
about
how
you,
that works.
dude.
Hey, all your idols are related to other rich people. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I lived in Hollywood, man. I know how this whole industry works.
Fucking terrible.
And these people had a lot of these guys who made this show had credits, good credits under the name. Like one guy was, one of the, real brains behind Lost when it was good. One guy wrote Thor Ragnarok, which is a good movie. Like, it's just that like
But
they didn't come to this right.
I mean, I agree. Thor Ragnarok was a good movie, but I don't
Yeah,
think the guy who
not
wrote that should have written like that was one of my complaints. I have this in my notes. Is like it felt like it became very like a
I,
Marvel, like
yeah.
Marvel's Cowboy Bebop, and it was the way
Where
the
was
dialogue
Ryan
was written.
Where could they not pay Ryan Johnson to make this? Because he would have killed it.
Yeah,
No, they had Patton
I don't know.
Oswalt come in and do a bunch of punch up.
A lot of people are
Yeah,
upset.
there you go.
I haven't seen the new Star Wars, but a lot of people are upset with his new like Star Wars shit. So
Oh, he wrote the only good Star Wars.
Yeah,
he
those
did.
people are dumb.
Okay, all right. I mean, I don't know.
They're
I'm not
they're
a Star Wars
upset.
guy.
Ryan Johnson basically told everybody to fuck off
Ryan
and was
Johnson
like, "I'm gonna
asked me
do a Star Wars movie that is good, and I don't care about continuity with the other ones because J.J. Abrams is a fuck up."
Yes.
he made a
They made the
good
only good Star Wars.
Star Wars movie in the middle of a bad J.J. Abrams trilogy, and that's what bit him in the ass because people are
Gotcha.
like, "This doesn't fit," and I'm like, "Yeah, because it's fucking good because
Yeah.
it's actually trying to do interesting filmmaking things, and it's actually
Yeah.
trying to subvert expectations, whereas people want Star Wars to be extremely predictable and basic."
Yeah.
Like weird mystery
All right.
boxes.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the last episode, I feel like that's really all we have to. And then I have a few like just side weird notes that I want to.
Yeah, I got some in conclusion type of overall
Okay.
meta commentary on
All
the
right.
experience of the thing coming out, but
So I feel like the real big thing that we have to talk about is Julia's the main bad guy. What?
that's
What
I
the fuck?
guess.
No.
I fucking
Don't
guess.
guess. Don't guess. That's fucking stupid. That is
she's obviously going to be the main villain going into season 2.
that is the dumbest shit.
It's so
But
She should have just died.
It literally felt like
at least Vicious died. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I don't think
I
he's
think that
dead.
no, he's not dead. I have a
Vicious
note.
is dead. He's not dead.
He's alive in a boiler room. I'm keeping you
Yeah.
alive for as long as we can get
In the
renewed.
break between the next season, I want to hit this really heavy when we're done talking about everything. So, Julia set up to be the main villain moving forward, or at least a significant villain moving forward. We've effectively neutered Vicious. If we're attempting to make him any sort of badass moving forward, it is going to be severely undermined by the way this entire season went.
I wonder if they're doing what we had talked about before, but like over a much longer period of time. Where like season 2 he gets out and Vicious becomes the like silent, incredibly murderous, like
Hope not. There's just no going back for this character. It's
Yeah.
just
I
they.
don't.
what else are you gonna do? I don't think it's silly. Like I like when Julia was like, "No, I'm in charge." Part of me was like, I think I'm supposed to think she planned this whole thing. But it really
Yeah.
feels like it just kind of fell into her lap and she was
Well,
like,
we watched
"Well,
like
shit, if I
3 or
shoot
4
you, I get to be in
fall
charge, right?"
apart. Yeah.
And there were like hints earlier that like she was planning this with like Anna and stuff, and
But all those plans failed.
Those
Like,
plans failed, and those plans were
Yeah.
always like, "You can have everything, I just want out," which I believed, and maybe I wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to, but, like,
I think she just saw an opportunity and she took it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's already
And
dumb because, like, they're in the back of that car, and they've got the gun to her head, and they're going to the meeting or whatever, and they're like, "Did you really love Vicious or Fearless?" Or I don't even fucking remember. And then she was like, "I never knew true love until Fearless." And then, like, the goon shoots the driver and the guy in the passenger seat, and the whole thing,
Yeah.
like, flips and all that.
Yeah.
And I was like, "That doesn't make any fucking sense." They have been loyal to Vicious through all this bullshit, through this coup attempt.
There was one scene before that where you kind of saw her like looking at Vicious like you might be losing it, bro. But that's the only thing they did in any terms of planting a seed for that to
You
happen.
can undo 9 episodes with a side eye and then be like, "Oh, no, she's gonna kill both of these people for Julia, a person she has no reason to
Was
really."
was that Lin or Shin, or are they just
I
I
didn't
silent?
don't. It was
to
someone
be
completely
honest.
different.
What's the difference?
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
don't know.
it's their own character they made up.
Yeah.
So Lin and Shin absolutely play no part whatsoever in this story.
No.
They're just standing quietly beside Vicious through the entire thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know, like, this really sort of calls the whole like, Julie's on screen so much, and it absolutely misses the point.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. And I mean, we're skipping ahead because this is the church fight.
Yeah. What else happened in that episode? It was a lot of like Jet's kid gets
Jess kid
kidnapped.
gets
Yeah.
kidnapped, and that's
I feel like we
they
already
fall
talked about all
for
that.
the bit. They fall for the fucking bit that they shouldn't have fallen for because I didn't fall for the bit, and I don't live in this universe. Like,
And then Faye ends up rescuing him, and she has another terrible one-liner.
Yeah.
I forget what she said. She's like, "Nah, motherfuckers," or something.
no. We are not skipping over this, sir.
Oh, please.
How dare you?
What did she say when she's shooting out the windows of the fucking
Okay,
church?
so
It's
in the original,
horrible.
this fight happens super early, and Faye is literally kidnapped. In
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
Faye
She's
is
the
there
one
in
that
a
like they're
fucking
going to save.
spaceship.
And they try to use her as bait, and they're like, "No, we don't give a fuck about you." But then Spike's like, "Oh, Vicious is there. I might go check this out."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. She shoots into the church from her spaceship and screams, "Welcome to the ouch, motherfuckers."
Oh God. Yeah, it's so bad.
And then that is followed up with like Spike does some weird like, "I guess I'll catch you later, Valentine." And like there's like 7 shitty one-liners in a row. This
Yeah.
also inspired me to watch the original because I couldn't remember if these were from the show or not. But like I'm like, you guys are trying so hard to make t-shirts. Like you're trying so hard to get like the silhouette of Faye and the ship firing with like "Welcome to the Ouch Motherfuckers" on the bottom, and people will wear those to conventions. Like that's so obvious what you're trying to do here.
Yeah. And even when it was filmed and when they had that all done, they still thought, "Yeah, this is good."
Yeah. This is good TV. We're gonna leave that in.
This is better writing. They didn't write "Welcome to the Ouch Motherfuckers" in the original. That's a really missed opportunity.
Yeah.
No, I cannot believe how badly they fucking ruined that fight.
Yeah.
Like I cannot. Like everything is blue. First of all, the whole thing is blue for hours, which is insane. There's a big ass stained glass window. Every piece of glass in that stained glass window is blue. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
I think I got
Like,
I think I got a hit of dopamine when I heard the like Steve Conti version of Rain. I think that's and then like that carried me through like a couple of minutes of that fight, and then I went back to being like, "Oh no, they're just completely fucking this up."
Yeah.
having everyone there was weird, and I get why it was this last episode.
Mm.
Having Faye shoot the ropes off the pillars is fucking weird. Having that song kick in as they were like awkwardly going up the stairs was fucking weird. And like,
Yeah.
I literally have a note that is just me being mad at K-Nite. I hate this, and I hate K-Nite specifically for making me watch it. My time
Again, I
has
didn't
value,
make
and
you
it was
do
wasted on
anything.
this nonsense. But like, it's so bad because like we do that, and then like, okay, we're gonna have our fight, and I was like, fuck it, at least we're gonna have the fight. This is what we want. And I've seen the arguments over the difference in composition, and like, I don't care about that. It's not a cartoon. You don't get to shoot it the same way a cartoon is shot because these are physical things. Whatever. But then we get to the exchange where they're like, sword, gun, and it's awful.
What's the line that they actually kept in? It was the like,
Yeah.
Like, he
Nobody
goes,
makes me bleed my own blood.
"Yeah, I'm a beast. I bled all that blood."
yeah, he
Yeah.
goes like you used to be a beast. You would kill to survive. You would
Yeah.
dominate other people. What happened? And then Spike goes, "I've bled out all that blood." and then Vicious yells, "Then why are you still alive?" And
These
then they
aren't those
shoot.
characters anymore, though. So it's
Right.
just
That's
like
like,
it
it
doesn't
sounds
work.
awful. It
Exactly.
sounds so dumb. It's not even like delivered well. Like he's just like, "I bled all that blood." Blammo, and they shoot each other, and it's like, no, like in the anime, I completely forgot about that when I was rewatching it, and then when it happened, I was like, that was sick.
That worked.
That
Yeah.
was such a cool thing because like it makes sense that he would talk like that, and it would make sense that he would like very nonchalantly be like, "I'm just not that guy anymore," and then he'd be like, "You shouldn't be alive if you're not that guy anymore, because that's who we should be because I represent your past." And then they stab each other.
Yeah.
But no, it's fucking terrible. And
Well,
then
they also
Julia
did
just
that
shoots
cool
Vicious.
thing. I don't remember if this isn't made it into the live adaptation, but like they're fighting and Spike gets Vicious's sword, or is that in Real Folk Blues? Had that happened yet at this point? When they kick each other, when they kick the other one's weapons, just to finish it off.
That's Real Folk Blues.
But I think they did do that in the live action. At some point, Vicious got the gun and Spike got the sword.
They actually
maybe I don't remember. I don't remember. But yeah, because that is such a cool.
Mutually accept, like, I'm not any good with a gun, you're not any good with a sword, so it's
Right.
like I'm giving you your weapon back, but I want my weapon back.
Right. Because we want.
It only works in anime, but it was cool as fuck.
Yeah. Because we're both the best at our craft, and we want a fair fight, but we want to be like both at the top of our game. Yeah.
Well, like also you can't like if I use a gun and you use a sword, but I know I suck with a sword, I can't throw it away because even if you suck with a gun, you'll still shoot me eventually.
Yeah.
Like we have to kind of agree to go back to where we were.
It just spoke to their bond that they mutually kicked those weapons back to each other. Like they knew the other one was going to give them his weapon back, and they did it.
But you don't feel that mutual respect in this at all.
Vicious deserves no respect.
Right.
Vicious is fucking fearless the whole time anyway. So it's like he keeps calling by a different name than we the audience know him as.
Yeah.
And it's like he doesn't really talk about Vicious very much, other than he's just like this guy. You know, like it just doesn't.
He doesn't seem to really respect Vicious. He just seems to hate him.
Yeah.
Which, why would you respect him? There's nothing like.
And like we don't even get like in Jupiter Jazz when they accuse Spike of being vicious and he gets like pissed off and like punches that fucking pipe and then like goes nuts and just starts like going ham on everybody because he's like, how dare you think I'm this monster?
Yeah.
We don't get that. Like you just don't get it because despite the fact that Vicious has been around the whole time, he's a fucking little bitch the whole time. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And like honestly, Spike has no reason to like. I'm not afraid of Vicious. Why would the badass guy who's our main character be afraid of him?
Yeah.
Like who gives a shit?
Because he basically carried Vicious when they were working together. Like he had,
like
he had to cover his ass all the time, and so he like you were a piece of shit. You're nothing without me, so I'm gonna kick your ass right now.
Yeah, you can't have your protagonist like very obviously carry the team and then be like, oh, he's my best rival. It's like no, he was there through nepotism.
Yeah.
Like we explicitly again fucking beat the audience over the head
over and over and over.
Like
over
you only get by with other people's accomplishments is a fucking line in that episode. Or his dad beats the shit out of him. Like his dad beats the shit out of him. That's an old fucking man. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then Julia just shot him. Like he's like
he just goes
that big climactic moment with the fucking, and then it's just bang.
You get like that zone out of that fucking meme with a lady with all like the math symbols. She just goes, "Oh right, oh
yeah,
I'm in charge, king of the castle." Yeah, cool. And then we cut to Vicious is not dead. Vicious is alive in a boiler room because we got greenlit for season 2 and we can't get rid of him.
Yeah, can't get rid of him.
No. That's not where we leave off, guys. Let's not forget.
No, God. No. We got one last scene.
The one thing I had given him credit for it's like, oh, some things don't translate well from anime to live action. And they had a good sense to just not put Ed in this. Like, maybe a few little references, maybe a few little things you can do on the side, but they were just like, obviously this character cannot exist in a live action format. Nope, they're gonna fucking try, and they're gonna try it almost exactly as she's written in the anime.
See, the problem is, and like I've seen this in a lot of places, and I agree with it, is that like the live action takes a lot of stuff from Cowboy Bebop that should have been changed that they left alone, and a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been changed that they went out of their way to make different. Ed should have. They should have done to Ed what they did to Faye and just been like, okay,
Yes,
OG Ed
absolutely.
does not
Was-
work.
Yeah.
New Ed, let's go. Like,
Uh,
you can still have a hyperactive like hacker kid. Like, you can do
Right.
that. Jurassic Park has shown us. You
yeah,
can have a likable hacker kid.
that was painful. That was
It was
and
hard
then
to watch.
I just there
Like, Ed
because
should have been like a weird Gen Z like YouTube content creator or something. Just like really hyper at the top, but not so much that like it was as cringy as it was.
I would have forgiven them for completely not putting Ed in this. Honestly, I
It's
could
got
have.
to show up eventually. You can't.
Ed would, yeah, they would have to put Ed in it. I
You
mean,
don't get to do knocking on heaven's door without Ed.
Yeah, but you guys don't think they're going to do Knocking on Heaven's Door at all. You think they're going to go their own way in season 2.
I mean, I think they'll have elements. I think
yeah.
they'll have the virus. I think they'll probably have Vincent. Like, if it's me and I am forced to write season
So,
2,
my
Julie is
prediction.
your main character. Then the second half, I think you introduce Vincent, and Vincent's your main bad guy at the end. That's what I would do.
My predictions for season 2 is it's going to be a combination of Ed. I think if they know, and I shouldn't say this because I don't think they know what they're doing. If they know what they're doing, they will just have Julia, like, assume that mantle as like the head of the syndicate, but generally step back from being like the active antagonist in this next season. And they will just kind of do a little bit of Jupiter Jazz shit, a little bit of Knocking on Heaven's Door shit, and then a lot of Ed shit. And they're going to kind of like weave probably a more consistent story next season rather than the just like trying to put together lots of random episodes that they liked this season. And they're going to take a lot of episodes that already have a lot of thematic similarities and try to create one cohesive like 10 episode stretch. That's what I think they would do if they were going to do season 2 well.
You know what they're gonna do instead?
Just the exact same thing they did in season 1.
Oh no, have you seen Power Rangers?
The new Power Rangers.
I mean, I was
I
like,
think Julia is gonna be the Rita Repulsa of the Cowboy universe, and literally every episode's gonna open with Julia doing something weird, and then that's gonna spawn the bad guy for that episode, and then we're gonna have to fight the bad guy, and
oh,
that's gonna be because that's kind of what this was, right? Like, it's
uh,
Vicious wants to do a thing, and it involves this bad guy, and then that bad guy is gonna
Yeah.
show up over here, and then we gotta fight him, and then that ties us back to Vicious. It's gonna be just a bunch of Julia being like, "I'm told you're the best."
with this
And then we
just like brooding in the background somewhere.
He's still
Yeah.
tied up in a fucking thing or whatever.
I mean,
Yeah,
Vicious is
yeah.
gonna get out in like the first episode. Like, he's not gonna be tied up for long. I can guarantee you that.
I think he's tied up for longer than you think, and I think we just keep cutting back to him. Like, we're just gonna keep forcing scenes of him being like tortured or whatever.
I think he's just gonna be
Like,
brooding.
he'll
I
just
don't
be
think-
like the freaking Hannibal Lecter, where like they just go like to him for advice, and
Yeah, like it's
which he
gonna
has
be,
no
like,
advice to give. He's terrible at what he does.
Pitch black, door opens, we get like the like light that comes in like that weird wedge across his face. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Are you here to kill me?" And they're like, "No. Whoever is in town." He's gonna go, "Oh yes," and then they'll exposition jump.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe.
Cut to guy who is this bad guy, but like doesn't look like a bad guy. You know, like we haven't done the mix up with the dragon tattoo thing. Like, there's all kinds of like we never did
Yeah.
the poker chip thing, and that'll probably be in season 2. Like,
Maybe.
Yeah, the poker chip thing worked really well as an introduction to Faye. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
but we'll still
I don't know.
have, but like,
They might shove it in there somewhere.
no, but like Faye will look. It's not hard to be like, okay, Faye is still a dealer, but
Yeah,
she owes somebody a favor or
Well,
whatever. You know,
because
she's
they
got
all
a ton of
kinda go
debt.
their
Like,
separate ways at the end of the season, right? So the Bebop's gonna have to get all back together in season 2.
yeah. Honestly, episode 1, season 2, being that episode
Isn't a bad idea.
does do a lot of that work.
It does. Yeah, that's true. I think they're gonna start season 2 with Ed though. I think they're gonna do the Radical Edward or what's the name of
Oh,
that
yeah.
episode?
But like the
Um,
one with her father and everything.
No, that's End.
Right.
The one with the satellite that she's like befriending.
Yeah.
I don't
I
remember the name of the
don't
episode.
remember the title of that episode.
Yeah, that
But,
like drawing the giant pictures on Earth.
Yeah.
yeah. I think that could be where we start season 2.
That'll be
I
weird
want to.
though, because half that episode is them trying to find Ed, and we've already introduced Ed and Spike.
Well, it's gonna work differently, I think. Like
Jamming with
uh,
Edward.
jamming with Edward. Yeah, I think we're gonna get some variation on jamming with Edward as the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, I can see that.
They might work it. They might crossbreed it with the casino. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe the satellite is fucking with the casino. And I want to talk briefly about beyond the show, just the reaction to it, because I don't know if you guys have perused Reddit or anything like that at all.
Twitter has not been kind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no.
I'm actually really reassured because I feel really happy to see the like feedback for this show, because like the fan base has a beautiful solidarity that this was trash, and that like if there is going to be a season 2, they need to fucking do better.
Yeah.
And I hope that Netflix got just enough clicks on this fucking show that they will get greenlit for season 2. And I hope that just maybe they will listen a little bit to the almost unanimous feedback that this was bad. Because, like we've continuously said, this is a constant case of good idea, bad execution. And I do like the idea of a Cowboy Bebop live action existing.
Oh, I mean,
I
we have talked about that since '98 when the show came out.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
just think
the show loans itself to a live action adaptation.
and because there's enough talent in the cast and the crew here, if we just get an intervention in the form of just really bad reviews, there is a chance that they pull it together and make season 2 better than season 1. And if that's the case, I could see this just bouncing back and not being completely awful long term. I don't know how you guys feel about that. If you just think it's
I don't
fucked,
have that kind of
the best thing that
confidence.
could happen is for it to not be renewed.
I thought it was renewed.
Has it already been renewed?
Somebody fact check that.
Usually, like on IMDb, it'll say season 2, like, but it doesn't
Well,
say anything
right
about
now,
that on IMDb. I mean, maybe it has. I don't know.
it does say the um November 2021 dash nothing, which usually means that the show is still technically running.
Right. I mean, but that just doesn't mean it hasn't been canceled yet.
So it hasn't been canceled yet. It hasn't necessarily been renewed for a second
Right.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of my understanding of it, where it's at right now.
Be informed almost entirely by how much money it actually made and how
Right.
many
I mean, it did hit like the top 10 in Netflix, like
Was it
most watched. So
so it might get something.
it might.
The reviews are pretty consistent. Like there's
Yeah.
not a lot of people out there saying this is good. And
Yeah.
that's a good feeling, because coming from the Final Fantasy community, when you're just screaming into the void with any valid criticism and
Yeah.
you're just lit by people saying, "No, it was brilliant." Like
Yeah.
it's nice to see a community hold accountability and say like, "No, we have standards. If you're going to fucking remake our favorite
Yeah.
thing, it needs to be at least kind of good."
Oh, they're definitely okay. So there is not officially a season 2. There's just been a lot of interviews around what would happen if there was a season 2.
Hmm.
They're definitely kicking off season 2 with Heaven's Door, because Ed, I was so in shock. I wasn't really listening to what Ed was saying. But literally she talks about tracking down the butterfly man before he does spooky bad things.
Oh, is that what he
Which-
said? I like
Yeah,
seriously.
I know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm the same way. Like I was just so
I
upset
didn't
by
connect
seeing her.
Yeah, I didn't
yeah,
connect that. The butterfly man doing spooky things. So
Yeah.
so season 2 is going to be knocking on Heaven's Door.
Okay.
And I think there's going to be Jupiter Jazz mixed in with that, because you can tie in the Titan lore.
There's no reason for Gren to be there if you're not going to at least do something. Like
They're definitely going to do something with that arc, because it's considered by I know I'm not in a minority in thinking that like that's like the strongest arc of the whole
Oh,
show.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Like,
yeah, I mean, Admittedly, there's not a lot of real arcs in the show, but it is very good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
I honestly, I think my guess is right. I think that Julia will be the main bad guy for roughly the first half, and then Vincent will
Yeah.
be like the true big bad at the end.
or they'll just
Maybe.
tie them together, kind of. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Julia doesn't fit into knocking on heaven's door, but that's
Right.
not going to stop him from trying.
No.
And Julia doesn't fit into most of this.
Julia didn't fit into any of this season, and she was
And
still
yet,
fucking there.
Yeah.
every episode, just chilling,
Yeah.
largely
Um,
doing nothing, but still there.
Just being a victim.
All right. Well, I've got a few just like more lighthearted notes that I want to touch on before we wrap up. All right. So like, there's that one like scene with the three old guys. I could have used more of the three old guys.
Yeah,
Like, if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna have a comic relief, like that's it. Those are your guys.
They were good. I liked them being there.
Yeah. The Watanabe Casino. I just thought that was like a cool little Easter egg. Okay. So the rock paper scissors scene. So Spike is like, you always pick the third.
Yeah.
You always pick the third option. But the first thing she says is Hunter Bear Ninja, and she picks Hunter. It's like that's not the third option. I that was just like the dumbest little thing. It's like if
How'd
if
they
she
fuck
always
that up?
chooses the third option,
Yeah.
then always have her choose the third option. But she didn't. That was just like it's just like a simple
didn't-
little oversight.
I was so embarrassed by that whole like exchange of dialogue that I wasn't even looking that deep into it.
Right? Yeah.
Like-
That was just dumb. Okay, I
That
did love the Big Shot show. I thought those two were great. The only thing is he never said shucks howdy. Not once did he say shucks howdy. Other than that, I thought those two were great. Punch and Judy were great.
Yeah, Punch and Judy were pretty good.
Yeah.
There need to be more of that. But as soon as they pulled in, like, because like, that's like one of the bits is where like he says a line and she's like, "Wait, that's supposed to be my line," and then
Yeah.
they end.
Well,
I was like, we already used the joke, so you're not coming back.
Yeah.
because towards the end she becomes like really difficult, right? And
Right.
she like
Yeah.
ends up like
Because they canceled the show at the
doing
end.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she gets like, my agent's gonna.
Yeah.
And like later, don't we see Punch at the airport like with his
Yeah.
mother? She's
Yeah.
like, "What happened to your nice little coworker?" He's like, "I think she's marrying her agent."
Right. Yeah.
Uh Yeah, I mean, I would all those side characters. I think season 2 would be fun to get more because we have Cowboy Andy. Maybe he does appear in season 2.
Maybe.
We've just introduced him into the world. We just need
You gotta get a horse budget.
again. If the show it gets greenlit for season 2, maybe one of the things they'll do is give it an actual budget so it can be good. I really do think that like the lack of budget that Netflix gave the show seeped into everything that went wrong with it. I think if they would have had money and they could have actually it could be that all these people working on it were actually talented and wanting to do a good job, but they maybe only had like a couple months to make this show. And so they were
Yeah.
cramming everything and like working on
And
it
they were also doing it during COVID.
during COVID under probably a budget, and they're saying
Yeah.
like, "Hey, can we work this? Can we do another?" And Netflix is like, "No, you got to wrap.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to get it here." And that affects things a lot, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I do see through some of the performances, some of the writing, there are people involved in this project that love Cowboy Bebop. You can tell. It's
Yeah.
just that like it seems like the highest direction in this is just bad. And
Yeah.
maybe they need to get a new showrunner for season 2. Maybe they need to get a new writing staff for season 2. Maybe they need to, recast a couple people. I don't think anyone's going to be mad if we pop back into season 2 and we have a new Vicious. Like,
No.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of the interviews around this have been like focused solely on like the creative process and how much like effort they put into like making it as close to the original as they could do that. And part of that might just be because like nobody's doing an interview around a show they're in and saying it's bad.
yeah, it could be just marketing. You gotta,
Yeah.
It definitely is, but like it does make me a little nervous because it's just like, man, like if this is really like if the marketing team decided going into this, the thing that they were gonna try to stick to is like look at how true to the original and how much we care about the original, like we are.
And
And
this is
this
the
is what it
product. Yeah.
is. Fuck, man. I don't know. Like,
Oh man.
if I were the marketing team, I would just be like, check it out. This is a cool thing inspired by, this original other thing,
Yep.
cool new show. But if you're just going to be like constantly like, no, like look at these side by side shots, like
That
we're
they
going to
seem
draw
to
from
rely
these.
Yeah.
heavily on that. And then they seem to rely heavily on explaining how they were, you know, fixing aspects. I mean, I just keep going back to Faye. Like, I know that that actress went on a whole fucking press tour talking about how they were reforming Faye to make her a better character, and then we get this shit. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, you gotta watch it. Like, there's nothing wrong with her going out there and saying that stuff, but then you have to back that up with an actual like
Yeah.
good performance.
Yeah.
That's the problem is I guarantee you didn't watch it. Like, because if you just look at it, like, because like Faye is like very like kind of over the top, like anime tits out, like.
She is.
And one
I,
time he's like gone on record where he was like, I would love to have not done that, but I had to, or my show wasn't going to get made because that was just like kind of demanded of me.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like the character itself is still written like a
Right.
person, right? Like she's not like,
Yeah, I can see like the actress like watching that show and that's all she saw was the tits and like not the girl behind the tits.
This character is just fan service. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, and I think there's a really valid argument to be made for why you would tone down Faye's character design.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I don't think that would have worked. I don't think you could have put that outfit onto a live human woman and had it not just looked completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you,
I mean, physically, I still think she's hot. Like, I mean,
yeah,
the costume
I,
was great. Like, physically, I had no problem with her. I thought she
don't
was great.
either. I just think it was the characterization. I think it was also just the arrogance behind the marketing around her character. And
Yeah.
then to get what we got was just kind of like, you really,
yeah,
this is an improvement upon like the anime. I don't think anybody agrees with you on this note. I think
Yeah.
everybody wants the old Faye back. And
yeah,
not
it's
because the
hard
old
to be
Faye was
like,
so perfect. It's just because you did some, this Faye was bad. It didn't know what it wanted. Like, you didn't know what you wanted to be.
it's really hard to be like, we've made the writing more feminist and then to have your character mostly be this very cliche sort of girl boss who like
Yeah.
doesn't really do like she doesn't achieve a lot, you know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of like yelling at people. It's a lot of like running away, getting yourself, which is fine because that was a lot in like the original.
And
But in the
what
original,
that
that's kind of part of
done,
the character is that she has this overconfident. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels
Does
weird
in the show, like, does she actually catch any bounties?
Faye?
In the
Yeah.
original, she does a lot.
all the time.
Oh,
Yeah,
in
In
this
almost
show,
every episode.
yeah,
In the
she
remake,
actually does the most work of everybody, like in the original show. She
right?
probably brings in the most bounties.
I mean, she
Probably.
catches the teddy bomber like because he blows up that building and then she walks up and just fucking one punches that dude and drags him off. Like
Yeah. But I don't think she catches any bounties. At least off the top of my head, I don't remember catching any bounties in the
Or
Netflix version.
but she doesn't. You never see her actually do anything.
Right. Yeah, she talks about it, and it's yeah. I mean, there's that.
You
bounties.
actually never see her do anything like competent. Like,
No, we
she's
don't. That's what I'm
always
saying. Like
stupid, and except for her shooting out the windows of the church at the end. That's like the only.
Yeah.
yeah, her only competent thing she does, she follows up with like the worst line of dialogue
Yeah.
in the entire series.
But what I think that has had a very negative effect on the response to the show, because recently another kind of like clickbaity article came out that like the actor that played Grin was kind of doing the same thing, and people have been running wild with this fact that this guy is also talking shit about the character when he also completely destroyed the character he was supposed to be representing.
Oh yeah.
In reality, like, what that guy said was really not that bad, and he wasn't actually talking shit about Cowboy Bebop. It was just his stuff was taking out of context completely. He actually seemed to have quite a reverence for the original character. But the narrative on like Reddit and Twitter and everything is that that the entire cast is out there just talking shit about the old cast, and there's no goodwill right now in this community, which is good because it maybe will force the development team to make something better when they
There
come back,
probably just won't be.
or they just won't
Maybe.
renew it
Yeah.
because they're realizing that okay, we technically have the numbers to show that this was worth it, but it seems like people really hated this.
Well, Netflix is not known for like renewing shows. Like they have canceled a lot of shows that were very successful that wanted to keep going.
Well, Netflix is just garbage. Like Netflix green lights everything and doesn't follow anything through. They're quantity over quality 100%.
Yeah, well, I mean that's sort of the bit, right? Like, is they just
Yeah.
do as much as possible, wait for something to become successful, focus down on that until something like Squid Game was never supposed to be what
Yeah,
it is, but
Yeah.
they're like, we're into it, you know, like Tiger King, like same shit. Like it's just you own all of the content, you are guaranteed the win. So we could abandon Cowboy Bebop and not give a shit.
Yeah.
Why should we focus on making it better? Well, we'll just make 1,000 other shows, and one of those will be popular instead.
Right. Watch Hellbound. It's really good. Highly recommend it.
I've heard Hellbound's real good.
It's real
There
good.
was a
I
very
just
wholesome... Go ahead.
I was sick. You can probably still hear it. I'm sick. So I just watched all of Hellbound yesterday. It's only 6 episodes real quick. But yeah, very good. Highly recommend it. But we're kind of getting off topic here.
Yeah. There was a wholesome little exchange between John Cho and Steve Bloom on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Steve was
I
like,
did see some of that, yeah.
good job, man. I was like,
Yeah. And again, overall, I think John Cho did a great job.
I do too. I think John Cho did a great job. I think
Mustafa Shakir, whatever.
Really good job.
Mustafa Shakir, yeah. He was great.
I think I honestly think Danielle Pineda has potential if they would just rewrite. They just need to commit to redoing Faye. They need to not be half 1 foot in the door of old Faye and 1 foot in the door of new Faye because she's not good at Faye. She's good at new Faye.
Right.
So optimism for the future, maybe. But
yep. We can always hope it'll be better.
I know better.
I don't have that high hopes.
Not worth it. Just accept that failures
Yeah,
happen.
this fucking League of Legends show is really good.
That's what I hear.
That's
That's what I hear, yeah.
I don't know anything about League of Legends, but I feel like even if I did, it wouldn't matter because it's.
I played it for one day.
I went through a phase.
Yeah, you're the one who got me to play it for that one day. Any closing thoughts?
I hate this, and I have K-Nite specifically for making me watch it.
Yep, you're welcome.
My time has value, and it was wasted on this nonsense. Fuck season 2 and whatever cocaine-addled producer promoted only through nepotism who allowed this fucking abomination to exist. There is no God. Only garbage rehashes of a time when things had a reason to exist outside selling merch so that we can make more things to sell merch for, create a universe to capitalize on FOMO, and people who build identities out of specific pop culture IPs. Seriously, fuck everyone involved with this utter cash grab garbage, goddammit.
Okay, well said. Beautiful.
My takeaway is some good ideas, absolutely piss poor execution. I hope that some aspect of the market accidentally creates a season 2 that's better than season 1.
Yeah. And I mean, crazier things have happened. You know, it more happens with like video games that start out shit and then end up being great. But, you know, it could happen with a TV show.
I'm in the Final Fantasy 14 rabbit hole right now.
Right.
And that's a case study of a game that just started out about as bad as it possibly could.
Yeah.
And then perpetually gets better.
You know, maybe that's what they need to do. They need to just blow up the world and restart.
They just need to send Bahama in there. And
right.
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't even question it. I'd be like, okay, there's a dragon.
Yep.
your best bet is like Crackle. Just decides to get the rights, and they're like, we're dumping literally everything we have. Like Netflix has no reason to give
Hail Mary.
Like Netflix is gonna hold onto the rights because they just made the show, so they've probably got 20 years before the rights are up again.
Right.
And they have no reason. They have absolutely no reason.
Well, here's to the next Cowboy Bebop in 20 years. Yeah. Gotta be better. Gotta be better.
Real time, baby.
All right, Kevin.
Probably just be a movie.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think that would. I don't know. All right, George, Kevin, thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys. See you, Space Cowboys. I said the thing.
So